right, did that do it first try? Let's see. Can you see and hear me right now? Excellent. Thank you, Claire. Wonderful. Welcome to Paleontologizing, everybody. It's good to have you here. Happy, what is it, Saturday? It's hard to remember what day of the week it is out here doing field work, because we work 7 days a week, typically. But welcome back to Paleontologizing. Welcome to beautiful, windy northern Montana, near the town of Havre. Welcome to the late Cretaceous period. We're digging in rocks about 76 million years old. Officially the Judith River Formation, but we think this actually corresponds to Park Formation of Canada. We're supposed to talk about that on stream with Denver yesterday, but kept getting distracted. We'll have an explanation about that soon enough. But anyway, I'm glad you're here. For anyone's very first time, welcome to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, and I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. Talking about fossils, talking about fossil science, talking about, well, why science is important, why the study of the history of life on Earth is relevant to your everyday life, why it gives us important perspective, why it's worth doing, why I love doing it. About 8 months out of the year, I stream from my office back home in the San Francisco Bay Area, going over new scientific papers, talking about new discoveries, sometimes interviewing other paleontologists, doing 3D printing and fossil news and Thursday Birds Day and all kinds of discussion about natural history, and of course tons and tons of viewer Q&A. The Q&A is something that we carry on out here in the field, because during the summer, I'm out doing field work, digging up dinosaurs and other critters, collecting data, all that good stuff. For the past few years, through the magic of Twitch and satellite internet, I've been able to share that with everybody at home, and we're continuing that this year. This is, what, week 3 in the field, for 3 or 4 so far this summer for me. We're going to be doing a lot more field work from Utah later on in the summer. But right now I'm in northern Montana digging with the Badlands Dinosaur Museum crew. This is the egg site again, so we've got several pretty nice eggs from a big lambeosaur dinosaur, a kind of duckbill, a hadrosaur. And we've got bones too, so I'm excited to show some of that off in a little bit. But for right now, we'll kind of settle in, and thank you for the gift subs there, Leanne. I appreciate that. Superb. Flutterbee, how are you doing? Welcome to Paleontologizing. Excellent. If any of you happen to have any questions during today's stream, don't keep them to yourself. Just go ahead and type them into the chat. That's kind of what makes things interesting for me and for the audience too. The point of these streams is science outreach, you know? Trying to show you, rather than just tell you, what fossil science is all about and how we do it and why we do it. So whatever questions you've got, and people have always got questions about dinosaurs, about fossils, about life's long and fascinating history on our planet Earth. Again, don't be shy with those questions. I'm here to answer them for you. Welcome to Paleontologizing. And Montana is beautiful. It really is, Leanne, yeah. I lived here for the better part of a decade. Not here, per se. Oh, hey, bird friend. What you doing? Is that a rock wren there? Very small, stilty, energetic little bird. My guess is probably a rock wren. If we hear it make a call, we might know. We used to call those laser birds because they sound like a laser beam from a science fiction movie or something. Pew, pew, pew! It's probably a rock wren. Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I lived in Montana in the town of Bozeman, way southwest of here, for about 8 years, where I was going to school at Montana State and learning how to be a paleontologist. And I was learning from Denver Fowler and some other people. Denver is running this crew here. He's at the Tyrannosaur, or the Jack's Bone Bed site today, rather. We're here at the egg site, and there's lots of cool stuff to show off, and I'm excited to share it with you. And Max Devlin says, do you know if the Haast eagle would have been capable of preying on humans? Modern eagles have preyed on humans, I don't know. At least scavenged humans. Haast eagle would probably take a kid, I don't know. probably given the chance. But that's the thing. I was talking about this with Fisher early on in the summer. There aren't really any large animals that are adapted specifically to hunt and eat humans. We're not particularly good prey. Sure, we're abundant, and sometimes we're not very careful, but like apparently human beings don't taste very good, and we tend to have a really bad attitude, you know? One of us gets eaten and then, you know, our compatriots tend not to take that very well. It usually doesn't go very well for the predator in question. So, I don't know. I think a lot of the talk of like, oh, man-eating animals, it's way overblown. Like, those are flukes. It's not the sort of thing that any creature is adapted. There's no animal on this planet, no large predator that evolved specifically to eat humans. We just don't make very good prey, you know? Anywho. But yeah. And Golganek, thank you for the gift sub to Fall Machine. Holy cow, that's a lot of gift subs in your tally there, Golganek. I appreciate that more than you know. And hello to Lenina. How are you doing, Lenina? Thank you for your mod work. Thank you, Claire, as always, for being here. I hope you're having an excellent day. Link for real, what's shaking? Yeah, very few animals will actually eat people until we're dead, and then all bets are off, you know? But like very few animals actually actively hunt people. Again, we're not very good prey animals, you know? It's not something we're good at. And exactly, Charlie's Dragon, yeah. Anywho. Sharknado not hitting Montana anytime soon? No, I wouldn't say so, Trick Tracks. Montana's pretty far inland, at least nowadays. You know, back during this time, about 76 million years ago, we would have been pretty close to the ocean. When the Western Interior Seaway was in the middle of North America, from northern Canada down south to Mexico, the continent was at various times cut into 2 or 3 different pieces as sea levels rose. I'll show you a diagram of that. But, yeah, just to kind of orient everybody at the beginning. And thank you, Leanne, for the gift sub there. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. And that is very true, Taxard. Yep. Anywho. Where? There we go. So this is approximation of what North America would have looked like. It has the U.S. states outlined on here and the Canadian provinces. Mexico down there too. Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana right here. So we're about there in Montana, near the town of Havre. Yeah, so this is pretty near the coast. Again, this is all approximate, these coastlines here, but it at least gives you a sense for what it would have looked like. I would have extended the seaway all the way down through into the Gulf. But this will work for our purposes here. So we're right near the coast here. This area would have looked, during the Cretaceous, it would have been a lot more wet and a lot more flat. So here you see those mountains off in the distance on the horizon there. You see these tall bluffs, this big coulee. There's this river valley here. The coulee is the local term for this kind of topography, where you have almost like a canyon or river valley, often with a wet river running through it. C-O-U-L-E-E. That's kind of the Montana term for this. I think they might call it that up in Canada as well, a coulee. Anyway, this would have been much more flat during the Cretaceous. This vast floodplain out here. The Rocky Mountains were starting to come up to the west, and as they're doing that, they're sloughing off sediment. Stuff is eroding away. That sediment washes downstream onto this vast floodplain, and it covers up all kinds of different organisms that were living down here. It would have been a nice place to live, almost kind of subtropical. You would have had probably palms. I think it's probably warm enough to have palms. You would have had ferns, horsetails, maybe some cycads, and then lots of conifers, and a growing number of angiosperms, flowering plants. all growing throughout here. Would have been a much more diverse plant fauna than we see today. And then we would have all kinds of different animals living here. In the freshwater ponds and streams and lakes and rivers, you would have had bowfin fish and garfish and various cartilaginous fishes, sharks and skates and rays, critters like that. Would have been also had sturgeon, paddlefish, amphibians, frogs, salamanders, and champsosaurs too, and crocs. All these different aquatic freshwater reptiles that were eating fishes and other critters. And of course you had dinosaurs walking around. Duckbills, tyrannosaurs, ankylosaurs, ceratopsians, little raptor dinosaurs, dromaeosaurs and troodontids and oviraptorosaurs and ornithomimids. And we find remains of all these critters here in these rocks today. We saw some of them yesterday at the Jack's Bonebed site, but we're going to see more today on stream. There were no penguins at the time, and penguins don't evolve until the Cenozoic exveator, but yeah, there were other kinds of birds, but their bones are very rare, difficult to find. They do have a few very tantalizing pieces of bird coming out at the other site right now, but we don't have any here yet. Here we've got mostly duckbill dinosaur, and then a few bits and pieces of other critters too. Yeah. And Dream of the Blue, obsessed with those relic plants that survived since these areas. A tree that basically became a grass. I'm not sure what you... So grasses are a newer thing. Grasses don't really show up in earnest until after the age of dinosaurs. So I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Plants. Some of my favorite plants today are ones that can kind of ancestry back to the Cretaceous. Like they looked similar during the Cretaceous and the Jurassic and sometimes the Triassic. One redwood tree, Metasequoia is its name, one of my favorites. Tree ferns are another really neat one, and ferns of all varieties I think are really cool. Cycads are maybe my favorite modern plants. That they were dominant during the Mesozoic, during the age of dinosaurs, but cycads are more rare today and more restricted to kind of tropical environs for the most part. Horsetails and club mosses and spike mosses were other plants that were all over the place during the age of dinosaurs. Flowering plants only show up in the the early Cretaceous, and flowering plants today are dominant on the landscape. Every plant that you see here right now is an angiosperm, a flowering plant. That includes everything from grasses to fruit trees, palms. Just about 90% of the plant species around today are angiosperms. They didn't even exist until about halfway through the age of dinosaurs. Oh yeah. It was an interesting time, the Mesozoic. Like the modern world was kind of just coming into the fore, I guess. And then when that asteroid hit 66 million years ago, marked the end of the Mesozoic, the end of the dinosaur age, and the beginning of the Cenozoic, the age of mammals. And that's when things kind of changed forever on our planet. Sometimes it's difficult to point to a single event and be like, that's what did it, you know? That's how things became the way they are today. But in many ways, that asteroid impact was an event like that. Very decisive, you know? If that hadn't happened, you and I wouldn't be here today. There would have been no age of mammals as we know it. Humans would have never evolved. It's interesting to think about, you know? Mammals had been around for pretty much the entirety of the age of dinosaurs, but they never really took off. It was the asteroid that gave them their big chance, you know? Their one shot, and they... yeah, and they took it and ran with it. Anywho, let's go over to the quarry and take a look at what's going on. Yeah. An interesting Jonderland. Okay, cool. Entire northern U.S. between the Pacific Ocean. I wonder if they use it in the east, because I've never heard anybody use that term basically anywhere east of the Dakotas. But I wonder. Yeah, I might actually Well, maybe we'll ask some of our East Coasters. Well, let's go on over to the quarry. And Twitchy Nose Rabbit says, was there a long time when the lignin of trees couldn't be broken down by any living thing? I don't know, actually. But I don't know enough about the Paleozoic era. I'm a paleobotanist. That's something I can't confirm or deny for you. I have to plead ignorance on that. I don't know enough about that to be able to have a strong answer there. Yeah. And there you go, Dream of the Blue. Yeah. I still need to go to the Smithsonian and see the new dinosaur hall. There's a couple of specimens that I've worked on that are there in the National Museum of Natural History. But anyway, that's a cool thing when you can go to a museum and be like, hey, I know that specimen, I worked on that. And some of the things that we're digging up here I'll be able to do too. Because all of these specimens that we're excavating are going to end up at the Badlands Dinosaur Museum in Dickinson, North Dakota, where Steve here is Chief Preparator and Lab... What's your official title?
I'm Lab Manager and Field Crew Chief.
Nice, yeah. Representing with the sweatshirt today?
Oh yeah.
Very nice, yeah.
Oh yeah, this is one of our newer sweatshirts. You can
nice
get it from our online shop right now.
Yeah, you can get that online chat, by the way. Let's get the link in the chat.
They're very breathable.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I didn't know the percentages, but there's some cotton in here that really people ask me if I'm, very hot out here in the sun. I'm actually not.
The black sweatshirt.
This one it does not heat up. My other shirts will heat up, so I don't.
Wow.
Maybe there's like spacecraft kind of engineering going on in here. So get yourself one before the price goes up.
There you go. Yeah, this proprietary technology.
Yeah.
Proper field sweatshirt. Nice.
Oh yeah.
Steve also streams on Twitch. He's going to be doing a lot of that. It's September, right?
September.
Yeah. At FossilPreparator. He's got a really cool channel, but he just bought a house recently, and you know how things go sometimes when you become a homeowner. That's a lot of work at the beginning, especially.
Well, and I had to build a new lab.
Build a new lab. There you go. Yeah.
I took everything apart, and it's just coming together.
Oh, we've got a question. Which T-Rex skull is on the hoodie? That's not T-Rex.
Yeah, let's try to see there.
Wilsoni.
Yeah. That is our holotype, Daspletosaurus. It made Daspletosaurus the most species-rich clade of Tyrannosaurus. And there's some contention, but you know what? No matter what you say, it was a lovely specimen to prepare, and it's beautiful in person. You can see the skull on display at our museum.
It's the only place in the world that you can see that particular dinosaur on display. Do any other institutions even have any D. wilsoni material? Do you suspect, or...?
Yeah, so Elias Warshaw, he went up to where did Elias go? Who has this? The Tyrrell. He went to the Tyrrell.
He took some of the material to the Tyrrell with him?
He was looking at some of their material, and he identified, I think, at least one individual as wilsoni.
Yeah.
It's not
on display? No, it's not published.
It's not published as wilsoni, right? So it's not described or re-described. But
interesting.
Yeah, there are some wilsonis out there that I know of.
But the only place you can really see them, unless you go into the collections, as a member of the public, the only place you can see them is in Dickinson, North Dakota. So, yeah, cool. Anywho, let's take a look at the quarry here.
We're just in the middle of kind of having a, I don't know, you call it a freak out moment, but like, oh my gosh, is this something?
Did we have more bones showing up? Let's take a look.
More like the resolution of what you found earlier.
Yeah.
The hole that you dug.
Right, yes. It's hard at work. This section of the quarry today, this was just gently sloping down, just like where Steve is standing, just sloping down to the edge. And I said, well, I don't have that much time to dig today, so let me try and make a big impact and just dig a big hole. And it looks like I kind of dug the perfect amount. Hopefully we don't have any missing pieces there.
So there are two elements. This was looking kind of like an epi.
Weird.
Like an epi squamosal, epi parietal, something. You know, we have ceratopsians out here.
Yeah.
You know, it's always a thing where it could be an ankylosaur armor thing, but it was looking a little more epi-like to me. And then this guy here, it's like, could it be feasible that this is a partial jugal?
Oh, from a ceratopsian?
Yeah, see that?
Oh, whoa.
Because we know it is broken here.
Yeah.
And it is complete here, and it has this sort of smooth.
Shoot.
And then this would be the
Like the
orbit
loaded
here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw that, and my first thought was acetabulum. Like that's part of an ilium, but... Holy cow, if that is part of a ceratopsian frill, that would be a huge deal.
This is rounded off here and not broken.
Yeah.
Which rules out ilium. So...
Oh boy.
I don't know. It's one of those...
Yeah.
Could it be?
Just gotta keep working and see what it is.
Which would mean we went from an egg site to a bone bed, and where there could very well be eggs underneath all of this
Right,
stuff.
yeah. Oh,
Because neither of these things strike me as being part of our yearling individual. We have more bones on that end exposed.
So not a baby skull, potentially, sometimes.
I don't think so. Yeah. They don't. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't bode well for your 10-day site plan. Like, what was the original plan for working here?
10 to 14 days. Well, that's like talking with Denver, and you go, well, it's 2 weeks it'll be done. It's very shallow, which it was. The eggs were very shallow. Like this slope was, I mean, just the same as you're walking around over there.
Yeah.
You know, there's sort of this crescent here, so we shaved off the top. Yeah, there were eggs, and then everything plunged. Everything plunged down low. So something cool is happening, and I need another piece of grid paper because this has drawn my map out too far.
Oh man. Wild. Well, shoot, we will continue to check in on this. Neo, how are you doing today?
Amazing. I mean, like you said, you were shoveling, and then I came in and I started cleaning up, and it was right there.
Stopped at just the right moment.
Yeah.
That's pretty lucky, but I don't know. Is it luck or is it experience? I don't know. Good stuff, but yeah. So I can back up and kind of give you some perspective here, chat. But yeah, where Neo is sitting right there, this is just a gentle slope that went from here to there. I dug away most of that just with a shovel this morning. I got like, 4 hours of solid digging time before it's time for lunch and doing other stuff, and then I got to get the stream ready to set up and all of that. So today I wanted to where can I make the biggest impact? I could be working down in the bone layer and find some bones, but that's the fun, exciting stuff, and I would kind of rather do the boring, arduous stuff and kind of leave the bone layer digging for people who can do it all day. So glad I did. I'm proud of this. Got to kind of find the bone without even trying to dig into the bone layer, and it's exciting.
Danny.
Yeah. Ceratopsian? I don't know about that. Oh shoot, that has happened several times where we thought that something was a different critter, and then it turns out to be a ceratopsian. That happened in Wyoming this year. So yeah. Anywho. Good stuff. Yeah. And let's take a look. Well, here, let's take a look over here first. Some of you might remember from, 3 days ago? Deanna had this beautiful humerus that she found over here, and there it is. She's trenched around it. See where my shadow is pointing? Pink, right there. Beautiful upper arm bone from a small duckbill dinosaur. Really nice. Yeah. It's lucky that it hasn't been jacketed yet, so I can show it off again, because it is really pretty.
It's difficult to trench because mudstone cleaves in all the worst possible ways.
Right. So you're trying to remove chunks, but then they turn out too big, and
right. And sometimes it takes the bone with, and so I'm using an air scribe. As you can see, these scribe marks allow for a really precise removal of matrix.
This is cool. This is only the second time that I've seen air scribes used in the field before in a quarry. The first one was in Hanksville, Utah, with the burpee crew.
Oh my god! Wow.
But yeah, this is pretty cool. So
yeah, and as I was trenching, there's some egg material right there.
So we got more egg there. Shoot. Oh man.
It'll be a little tough, but it's okay.
This is not an easy site. This is pretty technical. So I'm sure they'll be using the AirScribe later, and we can come take a look.
For sure. It'll be a little loud, so.
Yeah,
I don't know how
we'll
much
have some
it'll pick
AirScribe ASMR. I think the chat will enjoy that.
right in your ear.
Yeah. So you can probably hear, chat, the generator and the compressor over there. An AirScribe is a pneumatic tool, so it uses compressed air to vibrate a tiny little, like, chisel head. It's kind of like a tiny pneumatic jackhammer, but this is a standard tool that we use in the lab in vertebrate paleontology. It's not common to use it in the field, but this crew, they know what they're doing to kind of push the boundaries a little bit and try things that are slightly unconventional, and it's working out really well here, so we're happy for that. Anyway, air compressor and generator. Anyhow, yeah. Thank you, Bet Medler, for the 47 months of support. I really appreciate that. Thanks for keeping me here online. Yeah. And this wouldn't be Air Hammer, Claire. This is an Air Scribe. So it's also sometimes called an Air Chisel. I don't think it's like an Air... I think an Air Hammer is something entirely, totally different. Air Scribe. Let's see what Charlie's up to over here, too. So, Charlie was overjoyed earlier.
Yeah, first 20 minutes.
We're all doing a little dance because he found this bone here.
Yeah. No, we'll find out what it is. I have to kind of quarry upwards.
Right.
Which has been very time consuming, but you don't want to destroy it.
It's just going straight into the wall, so like, in order to dig it out safely, you've got to go to the very top and dig that down.
Although it does get pretty thin down there, so it could actually theoretically end there.
It might end right there?
It may.
Although there could be more in that same plane going into that same layer. We'll see.
I mean, theoretically, if this is part of the same specimen, which is unlikely, it'd go.
Yeah.
It's just slightly vertical.
This is a really weird thing at this site, that things are on so many different layers.
Yeah.
Like, often we find one bone layer and it just continues laterally, but here it's like...
And there's an egg somewhere in this area, because, like, especially, like, actually, or, like, around here, where near the bone was, I've been finding a lot of eggshells. So
gotcha.
We may have some egg over here, too. Unfortunately, it may be on top of this, which will make extracting this even harder.
Right,
so.
yeah.
But, I mean, not unfortunately, it's really cool, but...
Yeah.
It's just...
This is the sort of site that, like...
It's tough. It's precision.
It's not easy, but...
Precision.
But it's great for training, I guess. Like, if you can dig here, then...
Yeah.
That says something.
Much more successful here than at Jack, so...
Yeah,
Really good crew so far, so
Good stuff. All right. We'll go over to where the eggs are over here. So some of you remember this from the last stream from this site 3 days ago. But there's, in front of Brian, oh, there, okay. Yeah, Steve is slapping it there. That's the big egg jacket. And there's, what, how many eggs in there, you think?
So, under the plaster right now, there are 3 in there.
Okay.
There's 1 under this scoop right here.
Okay.
And there's eggshell kind of peeking out from all over this thing.
Right.
So it's an egg mound. And to my dismay, Wag yesterday, and he was very apologetic. I'll say that much. He looked like a sad puppy.
He found another egg?
2 more.
2 more eggs.
In the trench, down where my feet are.
I love it. Sorry, boss. I found you more eggs.
Yeah. One of them is pretty incredible. This one.
Oh man, let me get closer. Look at that surface.
When you look at this one from the right direction, you can see the margin all the way around. This actually is a smaller egg than some of the others.
Interesting.
But this is the margin here. And then there's actually a front margin right around here.
Right.
And you see it around the side, and it's obscured on this side. But egg, this is all eggshell, all this. And there's that texture we get time and time again, these sort of ruffles and divots.
Interesting. So like as the egg was flattening, the convex part of it, parts of it were, as it kind of gets flattened out, those convex parts are still sticking up.
Yep.
It's sort of like, Chad, if you try... Imagine taking an orange peel and then trying to smash it down on a table, and parts of it still want to stick up. They're still kind of rounded like that. Is that kind of what we're talking about here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nice. We have some eggs. There are a couple in here that are thick. They just got their full body to them. They're not crushed at all.
Yeah.
Others that are like potato chips, except they're all ruffled up. Ryan took one out today in the jacket that's up there.
Yeah.
So I have this air scribe here because my choices are, let's include these two in this whole jacket,
right,
and have just the strangest jacket I've ever made, where like we have a vertical thing. Now we have to push it over. I don't know what I'll do. It's already kind of difficult leaving these things out. So I think I can get these two out if I carve them out
with the air scribe.
Yeah. So with hand tools, it's this mud just wants to move where it cleaves.
Sure. So there's big chunks. We would say that's a pretty massive mudstone.
And if I take a hand tool to it and a hammer, just as an exercise, no matter what, it's going to shake that whole piece.
Right.
Shake that whole piece.
So you've got to be able to break those apart with something high power and high precision.
So
there we go. Nice.
For getting a better light. Now I have some modicum of control over the matrix. So we're not using these things to search or to get rock off of bone.
No.
In fact, I'm taking the widest radius I can to just get this down so we can have two individual jackets.
Right.
The egg from this jacket still continues. It's hard to see, but this is eggshell here that is just following here. There's a piece. This is the piece here that came right off of here, and instead of just keeping it on and just trying desperately to keep it on, we'll wrap it up in the jacket and figure that out in the lab. But there is a more or less complete, again, flattened egg down here.
Nice.
It's like egg. Before it was like, this could conceivably be, part of this clutch. And I guess it still could, but at this point, we're looking at what you call site fidelity.
Right.
So this is a place that they return to at least a few seasons, maybe more. I don't know how deep into the hill.
I wonder if it goes
eggs
like halfway down.
There are only
an egg mine here.
There are only two spots on the hill eggshell was sticking out. Over there and right where you're standing here.
Right.
But
it keeps going down. That's really interesting.
And as far as I know, it might keep going out. We haven't had as much of a chance to move out that way and explore.
So
we've been dealing
this
with
could contain eggs as well? Shoot. This could be a multi-year site, Steve.
It could be.
It looks like it might be.
I was going to be here for a couple weeks originally, but no, I'm looking at maybe a month or more. Like we have our Nodosaur site. Everybody's excited for that, but this is also my research, the eggs.
Right.
That I'm building. So this is a little more personal to me, and we had some discussions last night. This is Denver and I, and we're just figuring right now we should just prioritize this site.
Yeah.
Still plan on getting out to the Nodosaur, except instead of spending 2 months there, more like 4 weeks. See what we can do in 4 weeks.
Yeah. Do you suspect the Nodosaur might be a new species too?
Based on the horizon it's coming out of it,
based on the stratigraphy,
it would have to be. It's
nice.
Like,
okay.
I think the next one up or down at least a million years.
Okay.
If not more.
So it's almost certainly a new critter. That's exciting.
Yeah. I want its skull. I would really like its skull. We have the whole butt, to put it in a family-friendly way. We have, I call it the ankylo butt jacket. It's a complete sacrum with an articulated ilium. And we also have an ischium and a complete pubis.
Nice.
And oh man, I don't know if you ever get to talking about nodosaurs on your channel.
A little bit,
but just look into the pubis, because
it's
that
really
thing
weird.
Is huge.
Yeah.
Like, people didn't believe me when I said I have a jacket that's like 500 or 600 pounds. And Liz is like, what's the pubis? I'm like,
They've got
massive.
Incredibly massive hips. Just nuts. And those ilia, too, if you get those. They're just...
Oh, yeah, we have,
like these giant wings.
The first one we found is what Jack Wilson found when he was walking by. They thought it might be a ceratopsian frill, so the site is called Jack Ceratops. So the labeling on this site is nuts.
That's really funny.
Then they're like, okay, it's an ankylosaur, so it was called the Anky site. Now we know it's a nodosaur, so we call it Cobb for mixed company. We say crusty old boy.
Fair, yeah.
So all the jackets are like Cobb. They're labeled Anki. They're labeled Jackceratops.
Lots of synonyms. I like that.
Yeah.
But that's how field IDs go, you know? Yeah.
Exactly.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Brian actually worked on that first find. So
really?
He visited our lab, do some work. It must have been a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Almost 3. He worked on the ilium that was weathering out of the hill. And so that everything that can be done with it is done. There are like a bunch of that weathered out of the hill that don't have homes, but we have a complete ilium that's articulated with the sacrum, the bring into the existing lab.
Nice. Is that much lower in section than this here? I heard it was down by the valley floor. Or something.
It's way down there. Down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're probably lucky we're not doing that right now because it's probably all just filled with mosquitoes. Yeah.
Yeah. The bugs haven't been kind.
Yeah. Except to us today, we've been lucky. Let's cross your fingers, chat, that it stays that way today during this stream. But yeah. Nice. Good stuff. Thanks, Steve. Hey, so that's chat that the eggs just keep going down. I mean, I was asking about that a couple days ago. Like, could this be a nest site fidelity thing where you have like this same group of animals returning to this site year after year to lay their eggs, and things just kind of stack up season after season? That is something that we see in a lot of modern birds, especially ones who nest colonially. So you get that with like pelicans are a good example. In fact, here in northern Montana, there's a huge pelican rookery where all of these American white pelicans will gather to lay their eggs and raise their young, and they go back to the same site year after year after year. And we've got evidence that certain dinosaurs did the same thing. They would have nested in huge nesting colonies, and they found a really good spot and they just kept going back year after year. And so these things the layers would build up season after season. That could very well be what's going on here too, which is exciting. Yeah. But yeah. So many eggs. Exactly, Coldrake, yeah. So it would be a nesting ground, like a seasonal nesting colony. We do have evidence that dinosaurs like that lived in huge groups and would have returned, they would have migrated across the landscape, because when you have that many big plant-eating dinosaurs, they can't just stay put in one place because they would eat up all the vegetation and then they'd run out of food. So what they probably did was they would spread out across the continent during part of the year, and then, kind of like wildebeest do in Africa today, as the seasons change, they would get together and kind of follow the food, follow the rain and stuff like that, and then they'd go to a certain area to breed. And they'd all concentrate in that area to breed, and then later on, they would leave that area and then disperse again. This is the sort of thing where we don't have direct evidence of that migration necessarily, but it's something that just kind of makes logical sense. When you're thinking about a huge herd of hungry plant-eating dinosaurs, they would wreak havoc on an ecosystem if they were all stuck in one place for too long. So they probably would have had to migrate just to be able to find enough food. When you find massive accumulations of either duckbill or ceratopsian dinosaurs all in one spot, it's like they could not live here full time, not all of them. They would have had to have gathered only during a certain time of the year. Otherwise, they'd just eat themselves into starvation. Anywho. And yeah, the curlew, exactly. We get curlews up here, Crimson. Yeah, curlews with their really long, curvy bill. I think of them as shorebirds because we get curlew in the San Francisco Bay Area. You see them on the shore of San Francisco Bay in salt marshes and along the beaches. They use their long bills to probe in the sand and mud for invertebrates to eat. But some of them will migrate to Montana during the summers, and I think this is where they breed. And then during the winter, they come back to California or to other coastal regions. So there's an example of a modern dinosaur migration, because remember, birds are dinosaurs. So yeah, good stuff. But yeah. The real size of the rookery would be much larger than the site. Oh, so Samotrace almost certainly, yeah. So this is an interesting spot because we're on this narrow little tongue of rock where it's been eroded on either side. So the rock extends out laterally, but it's missing on either side of this. So you go over here, and it's all been eroded away. Over there, on this side, we've got another steep hillside. It's all been eroded away there. So this could have extended for hundreds of meters, or maybe thousands of meters in either direction if this was a really big nesting colony. We don't know. All we have is this one little sliver of it right here. That makes sense. But what I would be interested to find is if this continues at the same layer along those other rocks, if you could follow this out laterally. So if you could find this layer, trace that along these other hillsides, you might find more eggshell over there. It could be pretty laterally extensive. And who knows, it might even extend to the other side of the coulee. So if you were to hike all the way across and then I guess swim across the river, take a little boat or something, and then find those same layers on the other side, maybe you'd find more eggshell. I mean, if this is one of these sites that turns into a multi-year endeavor, then I'm sure this crew will be checking into that, to see if it continues. Or maybe it was much smaller. Maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe this isn't like a huge nesting colony. Maybe it's just this, but I don't know. I think odds are it probably extends further laterally. But yeah. And, an interesting Grand Bridget, yeah, sandhill cranes. Do they also nest colonially? Do they nest in great big, nesting colonies? Yeah, that'd be interesting. We get sandhill cranes too. We heard some the other day, just down there. And then later when they were flying around, we actually saw them. But they were pretty far distant, so I couldn't get a good picture. But you can hear them. They've got very distinctive calls. Yeah. And One Fun Panda says, is it true that dinosaurs were warm-blooded? That's an excellent question, and it's still kind of argued about a little bit among paleontologists. But the general consensus that's formed over the past 20 years or so seems to be that, yes, most dinosaurs were probably warm-blooded, meaning that they generated their own body heat by burning calories, like mammals and modern birds do, rather than like most modern non-bird reptiles who they kind of need to bask in the sun to warm up. Their blood temperature, their body temperature pretty closely matches the ambient temperature. So if it's cold out, they'll be slow and sluggish. If it's warm out, then they can really get moving. We don't think dinosaurs were like that for the most part. We have direct evidence of warm-bloodedness in some theropod dinosaurs, which makes sense because that's the group that birds come from. And birds would have inherited their warm-bloodedness from their dinosaur ancestors. But there's also been a few bits of evidence here and there that suggest that maybe some ornithischian dinosaurs, some of the beaky plant eaters, may have been less warm-blooded. Maybe they kind of required warmer temperatures to thrive. Maybe some of your duckbills or your horned dinosaurs or your armored ankylosaurs or something, your stegosaurs, but I'm not even necessarily convinced of that. I think dinosaurs ancestrally would have been warm-blooded, and maybe some groups kind of got rid of that over time. But yeah, anyway, long story short, we think that many, if not most, if not all dinosaurs were warm-blooded. But we're still kind of working on that issue. Yeah. Anyhow, catch up to the chat here. And Crimson says, besides birds, crocs and alligators are fairly widespread. Do they move to particular areas to breed that they don't normally spend time with otherwise? Crocs don't communally breed. They don't have colonial nesting, as far as I know. I don't think any of the modern croc species, there's like 20 or 30 of them, I don't think any of them do that. And they don't tend to migrate seasonally. They just kind of hang out in one area. Generally, if animals are going to nest communally, do like colonial nesting and breeding, that means they also migrate, because they all have to gather in an area, which means they all have to move from other parts of the landscape to that one spot. I don't think crocs do that. I think they pretty much... Sure, they can move a distance if they want to find better habitat or whatever, but they're not making these big migrations every year, like, you know, like many birds do, like many whales do. Turtles do this. No. But we do have evidence that several, and the ceratopsids. But it doesn't mean that every species in those groups did that. You know, this is one of these things when people say, oh, hadrosaurs migrated, ceratopsids migrated. We have evidence of that in a few species. For ceratopsids, we've got Centrosaurus and Pachyrhinosaurus are found in these huge mass death assemblages where a whole bunch of them died at the same place in the same time. Maybe there was they were trying to cross a river while it was flooding, or maybe there's a flash flood that caught them while they're crossing a river, or something like that. Yeah, so we get that for those ceratopsids. We don't really have that for Triceratops. Maybe Triceratops did not move in massive herds across the landscape. Maybe Triceratops didn't have colonial nesting. Maybe it's like, oh, one nest over here, another nest 10 miles away. You know, they're just all kind of doing their own thing. It's so early to say a lot of this stuff. Like, we need more evidence, we need better fossils, we need more people studying them. But we're able to get these beautiful little clear glimpses of certain key dinosaurs and what they were doing. And that's really exciting. And we're hoping that this site will become one of those that helps us interpret dinosaur behavior in this formation and learn more about how the Lambeosaur hadrosaurs are reproducing and everything. But yeah. Anywho. Oh, and yeah, we do also have colonial nesting for South American sauropods, for titanosaurs. It's a good point, Crimson. Yeah. Have any non-avian theropods been found with signs of colonial nesting? Maybe. We have a few... some Oviraptorosaurs may have done that, because we do get areas where you find a bunch of eggs from them all in one spot. And sometimes you get, like, nests where there might be a whole bunch of nests in one little area. We also get that possibly with dinosaurs like Falcarius, that early Cretaceous therizinosaur from North America. I think maybe the oldest therizinosaur in the world still. But there's like thousands of individuals that all seem to have died in the same spot, individuals of all different ages and size classes. So maybe they're doing something where they would get together annually and like, yeah, let's have a Falcarius jamboree. And then let's all die in the same spot, get buried. It could be something like that, or it could be just like there's a whole bunch of them, where there's a good number of them that would gather every year, and then occasionally some would die, and then they just kind of build up on the landscape, those bones, and eventually get buried and preserved. Again, there's so much we still don't know. Yeah. And One Fun Panda says, do they know why Allosaurus died out? No. Although, it's funny that you ask that. You know, a couple years ago I would say, well, I don't know, everybody dies out eventually, or they evolve into something else. But with Allosaurus, along with a lot of the other dinosaurs from that same environment, the Morrison Formation, the latest Jurassic of North America, that whole fauna may have more or less been wiped out, maybe by an asteroid impact. This is really preliminary stuff, but Jim Kirkland, state paleontologist of Utah, has this hypothesis that the late Jurassic dinosaur assemblages in North America, largely represented by the Morrison Formation, that whole fauna may have been wiped out by an asteroid impact at the very end of the Jurassic in South Africa. There's the Morokwang impact structure that seems to show an asteroid hit right around that time, and you get all kinds of dinosaurs that disappear from the fossil record at that same time in North America and in Asia. So it could be that Allosaurus Stegosaurus, Diplodocus, Brachiosaurus, Apatosaurus. They may have been wiped out by an asteroid. One probably not as big or as devastating as at the end of the Cretaceous. And the fact that it seems to have fallen on continental crust in South Africa probably made it less severe. But it could be that, there was an asteroid impact that ended the Jurassic period and caused the disappearance of those groups of dinosaurs. So yeah, that's the Jurassic Cretaceous extinction event, Golganek. Yeah, and Jim has a talk about that. If you want to search it up on YouTube, I think if you type in, oh hey little rock ran bird, what are you doing? It's dinosaur decimation or dino decimation. Little rock ran. I think that's a rock ran. Cool. I wish I could get a good photo. They're so furtive. Anyway, dino decimation. This is super preliminary stuff. Sounds like a rock ran, yeah. But, yeah. So far, just about everybody that Jim has showed this to goes, wow, you might have something here, including the folks in Europe and the folks in China. People are finding evidence of this all over the Northern Hemisphere. And so it could have been an asteroid that ended the Jurassic period. And caused this big, turnover event. We'll talk more about that when I'm in Utah in about a month. But yeah, exciting stuff. And with the early Cretaceous brachiosaurs, those might not be brachiosaurs, Crimson. That's the thing. Critters like Sauroposeidon might not actually be brachiosaurs. They might be something else. They might be early titanosaurs. They might be turriosaurs. Kind of figure that stuff out. Researchers have different opinions on that, so jury's still out. And Trick Track says, with South Africa still connected, just started to the early to middle Cretaceous. That South America and Africa start to split, that the Atlantic really starts to open up. So yeah, they would have still mostly been connected. Yeah. Good question, Trick Tracks. I like that. And Dreamer of the Blue says, so cool how paleontology requires evidence from all over the world. Does everyone wonder about all the untouchable fossils deep underwater? It seems that everybody on Twitch wonders about that. I've hardly ever thought about that in my life as a paleontologist, but I get that question at least 5 or 6 times a week from Twitch viewers. Yeah. I don't know. There's so many fossils here on land for us to find. If we had 100 times as many people, we could have 100 times as many sites like this all throughout this landscape. There's so many fossils to find right here on dry land, where we won't have to take a submersible to go down there. But it seems people on Twitch they seem keen on the idea that things are better down where it's wetter under the sea. I don't know. Is it because of Subnautica? Is that why that everybody has undersea exploration on the brain? I'm not complaining about it. I just think it's funny. Yeah. Also, I keep hearing this noise. I'm like, oh shoot, is that a mosquito? No, it's the air scribe. Let's go take a look. Yeah. Again, really cool that we've got these tools and we've got people qualified to use them on the crew. This is what it requires to run an air scribe. You've got to have an air compressor here. That's the yellow thing. And you've got to have something to generate electricity for it. So, a generator. There are very few crews in the world who would do this kind of work in the field. People who have the know-how and the equipment to do that. But this is a pretty elite bunch here, if you don't mind my saying so. Here's the airline. This is not a very long snake. It is a green air tube. Going to the air tools over here. How are things going, Steve?
It's tedious.
Yeah?
Tedious. I think I get one of these two out today for sure.
Yeah. Let me get behind you here, Wag. Thanks.
Gonna be like 2 eggs total for the day.
Uh-huh.
This is where we have, again, this really cool egg that Wag found earlier today.
Yeah.
Of course, he found that in the trench yesterday, so they're two together.
Uh-huh.
They're flattened up. This one, all that orange is egg.
Right.
And then there's that rough texture from it being crushed. But this is egg margin here, and you can see a curve.
Mm-hmm.
And then that curve continues here, though there's sand on it, so you can't see. But there's actually a whole margin preserved. So
Nice.
it's a complete egg. It's not all expanded, it's been flattened.
Well done, Wag.
Thank you.
Nice.
Sorry, boss.
Yeah, it's a bit of work. But I think I can pop this one. Maybe we can do both. We'll
Nice,
see.
okay.
We'll
Think it'll
see.
happen today?
I'm trying to be like Denver optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll get all this done before lunch.
This will be 2 or 3 days. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. How many other crews do you know of who actually use air scribes in the field like this? Because this is I've only ever seen it once at Hanksville.
Burpee started it at Hanksville.
Uh-huh.
They use Chicago pneumatics, and then the same sort of airlines.
Yeah.
There's a lot of direct preparation in the field of sauropod bones, and that's not what we're after here.
Right. Yeah.
So we're using tools that we have a little more control over.
Mm-hmm.
If you know Chicago pneumatic, you know it vibrates a lot.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot for the hand to dig. It's really loud and it's really clumsy.
Oh yeah.
You know.
So you're not necessarily the biggest fan. You've got higher precision gear on here.
Yeah. So we have some of our Zoic tools out here. This is a Zoic CPTR, or the T-Rex is what they call it. And this has a piston that's fixed in place. So other models that might rotate around.
Right. Okay.
This is fixed in place.
Does that cause like interesting wear of the tip?
It causes predictable wear of the tip. I should say.
Nice.
And depending on the matrix, tungsten carbide tips can be self-sharpening. So if it's mud with a little bit of silt in there, it just maintains this chisel.
Okay.
You know, so I don't have to do too much resharpening with these.
Yeah.
You know, they're sturdy. We don't have all the water control that we do in the lab. That in terms of like filtering water from the airlines, it's really important for the health of your equipment. We can't do all of that out here. That said, it's not like we're out here all summer.
Yeah.
It's just that there are a few situations that call for it. These.
Okay.
I love these Zoic tools. The piston ones in particular. She doesn't have a piston model. She has one of those spring lock push plate air scribes. So it's perfect for what we're doing out here.
Nice.
And maybe the best tool that's available. I don't know what's perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool. I was just saying, like, I don't know. It feels like an elite move to have air scribes in the field like this and people who know how to use them. This is not a common thing.
I've heard of one or a couple other groups doing it, and I can't tell you who they were. I know it's not common, but you know, Dion and I are preparators.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, so It's been a few years since I've seen a situation where this is useful. But it is very useful.
I'm glad you had it out here in the field with you. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's always we always have something just in case.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
How you doing, Wag? Yeah.
Doing good today.
Nice. It clearly, yeah. Nice. Oh.
The smallest little coprolite.
Oh, tiny little poop. Nice.
Tiny poop.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's his specialty.
Nice.
That and eggs.
Yeah.
Well, the eggs in the trench. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
My bad.
Nice. Okay, I've got a few more questions in the chat, so let me attend to those. Walk around for a minute. We've got some clouds overhead right now, which is nice for us. It's keeping things cooler, but it's not so nice for my solar panels. You know, there's a give and take. 78%. Oh, we're doing fine. Yeah. Should last the whole stream. Let me check on my other battery too, which I probably should have charged last night, but I did not. We're still at, okay. We're at 2 bars out of 4. That should be okay for now. But yeah. Let's see. Do we have another question about... Oh yeah, so somebody was asking about oceanic dinosaurs. We don't really have any. There's only a couple, and those happen to be birds. Birds are a kind of dinosaur, and we did have a few ocean-going birds from the time of the dinosaurs, things like Hesperornis. But all of the things that people in the general public tend to think of as ocean dinosaurs, plesiosaurs, mosasaurs, ichthyosaurs, etc., those are not dinosaurs. They're other kinds of reptile that lived during the age of dinosaurs, but they're not dinosaurs themselves. Some of them are related to modern lizards, like the mosasaurs. Some are related to who knows what other kind of reptile, like ichthyosaurs. Yeah. So it's... Thank you, mods, for... And then... Let's see... And Internet Explorer says, are all types of life that existed just outcomes of a search algorithm that's navigating this reality's problem-solving environment to secure a certain threshold of energy and strategy for reapplication? No. Not everything's a computer. Yeah. I don't know. I realize that might be an unpopular opinion on a platform like Twitch, but not the solution to every problem. Sometimes there can be little bits of like programming thinking and stuff that can be used as analogies for understanding the natural world, but they're very limited, and I don't know. Some of the most frustrating conversations that I've had with people who should know better is like when I'm talking with computer programmers or physicists about the history of life on Earth, about evolution, and like they just can't get these ideas through their head that like the real world is messy and complex and has all kinds of interesting shades of gray, and not everything can be boiled down to a computer algorithm or a mathematical equation easily. You know, people want to have this magical, beautiful theory of everything, and it's like that's not the way the real world works. You know, spend some time outside. Sorry if that sounds a little snarky, but you know, it's just my genuine feeling, you know? Anyway, I'm glad you're here, Internet Explorer. Used to be a big fan of your browser. Yeah. And K Hardcastle says, to your best idea, how tall were the trees back in the Jurassic, and is there any supporting evidence? I'm not a paleobotanist, so like fossil plants are not my area of expertise. But we do have evidence of redwood trees back in the Jurassic and the Cretaceous. And maybe back in the Triassic too, I'm not totally sure. But whether those redwood trees were as tall as today's trees, we're not really sure. I have seen gigantic fossil tree trunks in the Morrison Formation of things like Araucaria, which is the monkey puzzle tree today. This would have been a member of the same family. The monkey puzzle tree, Araucaria araucana, is, I think it's the national tree of Chile, and maybe the national tree of Argentina as well. Both countries really want to claim it because it's so big and cool and beautiful. Those were super common during the Age of Dinosaurs, members of that family, the monkey puzzle tree family, Araucariidae. And we do have trunks of them suggesting that they could be like well over 100 feet tall. But maybe they were a different shape back then, you know? Maybe they didn't actually get to 100 feet tall. I don't know enough about trees to know how much plasticity there is in their growth and how much their shape can vary in different times and places, so I don't know. There would have been tall trees during the Age of Dinosaurs. We know that for certain. How tall? Well, we don't have any complete ones that I'm aware of, so that's we got to speculate a little bit, maybe. Anywho, yeah, that's Chile's national tree. Isn't it also Argentina's national tree too, though? I feel like they fight over that. Oh, and Mondo Minibus, welcome, welcome. They say, my son Liam would like to know what you're searching for. I'll show you, Liam, what we're searching for and what we're finding. So we're digging out here in northern Montana in late Cretaceous age rocks. So rocks from kind of near the end of the Age of Dinosaurs. We're finding dinosaur eggs, and we're finding dinosaur bones. And dinosaur poops, too, what we call coprolites. So let me show you some of the bones, and then I'll show you some of the eggs. So, Deanna's got this gorgeous humerus over here that she found the other day. This is the upper arm bone of a duckbill dinosaur.
That's actually re-identified by Liz Fowler as a tibia.
That's a tib? Oh, it's got the twist on.
Makes it even smaller than we.
Oh shoot! Okay, so this is the main lower main shin bone.
About that.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
already talking about sectioning, and the tibia is the best bone to histology.
Oh, that's so exciting! That's better than a humerus. Nice. So yeah, and we've got some other bones coming out here and there.
Yesterday we found the fibula.
Oh yeah? Where's the fib?
Bagged and tagged and canned.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, we already extracted it. Beautiful. Charlie's got another bone under that bag there, which I will not ask him to show us. He's trying to protect it from falling rocks as he digs it up. But we've also got some egg pieces. Do you have any egg shell to show off here, or?
Charlie, do you still have the one that I gave you, or no?
Probably not.
All right.
That's okay. We've got eggs over there. Yeah.
There's some under there.
Here we go. Oh, nice. I can show you the eggshell right up close. There's some space in the quarry right now. Well, actually, part of it's covered up by aluminum foil, but that's okay. We've got several eggs
I can
right here.
uncover it for you if you want.
Yeah, that's
The one on the right?
Yeah? Can I do it really carefully?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, here, watch that piece there.
Right or left boot?
Left boot,
Okay.
that foil.
Ah, the foil. Yeah. Okay. Let's uncover this eggshell. This is a flattened dinosaur egg right here. See this kind of wavy texture? Like I described earlier, it's kind of like if you take an orange peel and try to flatten it out on a kitchen table. There'll be parts of it that still try and stick up. This is what's going on with the eggshell here. Very, very cool. So, that's an egg from a duckbill dinosaur. Put this carefully back. So we like to cover these things up because we've got lots of rock falling down in the quarry. We want to make sure that we keep these things protected. There we go. Multiple other eggs that are already covered up by plaster and burlap in these protective jackets. Yeah. Steve is working on carving away some of the rock from around these so we can get them out safely. It's good stuff. Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. Cole Drake says, it's larger than I imagined an egg to be. What seems to be the average size of duckbill egg?
It depends on the type of duckbill.
Yeah.
So you're probably used to seeing saurolophine eggs,
Or Maiasaura, famously.
Maiasaura.
Yeah.
And those, might be up to 10 centimeters, 12. As small as like sort of like that, or big
So
as
like
that.
maybe grapefruit size to like, I don't know what's larger than a grapefruit. Cantaloupe size. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Lambeosaurian eggs are different. It's a little weird because they're not explicitly bigger. In fact, on average, smaller body size.
Yeah. So the adult animals are like a little bit smaller, but they lay bigger eggs for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have not seen that the largest such egg is about 25 centimeters in diameter.
Shoot.
So we're talking basketballs here. Here, a couple of our bigger eggs, they measured upwards of 24 centimeters. However, many of them are crushed, so that's going to make them look a little bigger than they actually were.
When they flatten out,
there are a couple eggs in this jacket that are actually still three-dimensional.
Nice.
So there's no crushing or anything. Maybe there's something inside. You never know. So I trust the measurements on those a little better. And I think we were at 18 to 20 centimeters.
Just maybe like volleyball size, something like that?
Maybe that's what a volleyball is.
I don't know, yeah. What's a regulation size volleyball, Chad? How many centimeters in diameter? Yeah. Somebody look that up.
a volleyball saucer. Saucer.
Nice. Cool. Thanks, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So yeah, some of these eggs, when they're flattened out, they're almost kind of like frisbee sized. Yeah, and here I'll show you a diagram for what these animals would have looked like, more or less. I don't know if we have a lambeosaur, but we've got another kind of duckbill that'll at least give you an idea for what the body looks like, if not the shape of the head. Ugh. Where's my hadrosaur? Grabbed some new ones out of the tent this morning. Here we go. Yeah. So, this is, I think, Gripposaurus right here, which is a dinosaur that we get in this area and at this time. But ignore the head because ours would have looked different. But yeah, they've got a long, stiff tail like that. Their back legs are much longer than their arms. But yeah, that's basically the shape of this animal. And they've got a duck-like bill at the front of their head. Gripposaurus is what we call a saurolophine hadrosaur, what we used to call a hadrosaurid. Now we call them saurolophines. It's a long story. But these guys, the lambeosaurs, like the critter that we're digging up here, we think ours is a lambeosaur, the bones that we're finding. They have these big, elaborate head crests here. So Parasaurolophus is a famous one of those. We've got those as emotes. Somebody pull out the Parasaurolophus emotes for us. Here we go. This might help us out a bit. Yeah, Corythosaurus right here has got a big crest on the top of its head. That's a lambeosaur. And same with Parasaurolophus right here. It's got that big honking crest on the back of the head. That's the blue emote guy that you see there in the chat. And yeah, and then there's the more flat-headed ones, like here's Gripposaurus right here. Yeah. So anyhow, this is kind of a cast of characters from this part of North America from round about this time, from the late Cretaceous. So yeah. Cool stuff. Does that make sense? Yeah. And let's see here. And Queen of the Terrible Lizards, how are you doing? Welcome back. They want to know egg shape question, round, chicken egg shape, oblong. So we think these are spherulithid eggs. They're roughly spherical in shape. They're basically shaped like a volleyball. Hadrosaurs tend to lay eggs that are spherical, more or less. Maybe not a perfect sphere, but more or less spherical. the more elongate eggs that are almost kind of tube-shaped, that are round on either end. Elongatulithid eggs, those tend to be from theropods, from two-legged meat-eating dinosaurs. Yeah, and then you get ones that are kind of in between from different groups too, so... Some of this stuff we're still kind of figuring out. Like, it can be very difficult sometimes to match a particular egg to a particular kind of dinosaur. And several who have been working on it for a few years. My undergrad advisor, Dave Verricchio, that was one of his things, is trying to figure out what are the different eggs. Let's see. Oh, an interesting diagonal. Didn't know that was Argentina's name. Yeah. And went to Milwaukee Museum for the dinosaur exhibit. Was told Tyrannosaurus was no more than 20 feet tall. Is that true? Yeah. They're less than 20 feet tall. I mean, Tyrannosaurus is an animal that it's much longer than it is tall because they held their backbones out straight behind them. Well, I've got a diagram here somewhere. That'll work. Here we go, lovely. I think this is Daspletosaurus right here, which is the same kind of tyrannosaur that we find in this area. So this is it could be the ancestor of T-Rex. It's kind of debated, but Daspletosaurus here. See how it's not particularly tall, it's much longer than it is tall? Because they held their backbones straight, like horizontal over the ground. So yeah. If they wanted to, they could kind of rear up a little bit, sort of like a kangaroo, but they have a limited ability to do that because the tail would hit the ground as they pivot on their hips, if that makes sense. So yeah. Tyrannosaurus, which is, as far as we know, the biggest of the tyrannosaurs, the biggest member of that family, the Tyrannosauridae, is Tyrannosaurus rex. Probably. A hip height of maybe 15 feet at the very largest. So, from the floor to the top of the hips, about 15 feet, so just shy of 5 meters. Again, certainly not the tallest dinosaurs. Sauropods take that prize. But were some of the big dinosaurs like Giganotosaurus and Spinosaurus, but they probably wouldn't have been as robust and heavy as T-Rex. So you could make a strong argument that T-Rex still is the biggest meat-eating dinosaur. Yeah. If we go by mass, at least. And there you go, Rushwing, yeah. And Charlie's Dragon says that's still plenty tall enough, if you ask me. Oh, yeah. You wouldn't want to run into that critter in a dark alley, especially if it's hungry. Unless it's a very, very narrow dark alley. Maybe it's dark because it's enclosed on the top. Maybe he couldn't get you in there, that animal, in a very, very dark alley. If he can't fit. But yeah. What's with Mapu or Charcha? This is Kaiser? Oh, you mean the Carcharodontosaurus? You're talking about Mapusaurus and Carcharodontosaurus. Yeah, so they are members of the Carcharodontosauridae. They're like these big derived allosauroids from the, early Cretaceous? They're maybe as long as T-Rex, but they're not as robust. Not as heavy, not as massive, if that makes sense. It's interesting in that, like, a bunch of the biggest meat-eating dinosaurs that we have are all around the same size. Like, they're all kind of... It's almost like they're hitting their heads on a glass ceiling, you know? They reach a certain mass, and then maybe that's as big as you can get as a meat-eating terrestrial animal. Maybe there's something to do with... There's something biomechanically or in terms of like diet and metabolism, maybe you can only get that big and no bigger. I wonder. What's funny is that they are so much bigger than the biggest terrestrial carnivorous mammal. which today is what, a polar bear? Like a T-Rex could pick up a polar bear in its mouth if it wanted to, if they lived at the same time, which obviously they didn't. So yeah, there's something about dinosaurs where they were able to get much bigger than mammals on land. It might have something to do with metabolism. It more likely has something to do with their respiratory system and the density of their bodies. Dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus and some of the Allosauroids and critters like that, they had a lot of what we call pneumaticity. So they had air sacs and hollows and like air-filled hollow spaces throughout their bodies that would have made them more lightweight. So it's easier to move around, much more kind of efficient than a lot of mammals who tend to be very dense. And it also would have helped oxygenate their cells. They would have been able to get air to different parts of their body in order to keep their cells healthy. Stuff that mammals just don't have, you know? But yeah, these are interesting questions, and there are people working on this stuff. Yeah. And BDB Dawson, Tyrannosaurs mostly like to hunt stalking in wooded areas. We don't know. We don't know that. That's the thing, is that science is all about testing ideas, you know? As scientists, we're not just supposed to say stuff because it sounds cool or because it might sound convincing. Science is about finding evidence, in this case discovering fossils, and then using those fossils as a basis for testing ideas. So I don't know how you would test the idea that tyrannosaurs only stalked their prey in forests. How would you be able to tell that from a skeleton, you know? I suppose you could if you found enough skeletons of tyrannosaurs, and if you had really, really good data on where they came from, and you could say, well, these ones, you only find tyrannosaurs, you only find them in forested areas, then maybe you could make some kind of supposition that they required, you know, tree cover to hunt their prey. But even then, it'd be hard to really say that with any kind of confidence, you know? So we try not to speculate too much about stuff like that because, you know, the evidence just isn't there, you know? Hope that makes sense. Yeah. And Kaisor says there are like 50 in the world. Yeah, for Tyrannosaurus in particular, for T-Rex, there's about 50 or 60 specimens that are in museums that can be studied. And when I say specimens, I mean like not a single tooth. I mean like an associated skeleton where you've got at least 30% of the animal's bones in one, you know, from one individual. Yeah, there's about 50 or 60, which is a phenomenal number for dinosaurs. The vast majority of dinosaurs that have been named are named based on one skeleton, and it's usually pretty incomplete. So Tyrannosaurus is one of the better represented dinosaurs. It's more common than most other dinosaurs. We've got a lot of skeletons of that animal. There's also been more papers published on T-Rex than any other dinosaur. Any other non-avian dinosaur, I hasten to add. Birds, you know. Some birds are very well studied. But yeah. Anywho, yeah, we've got more T-Rex than most other dinosaurs, for sure. Yeah. And Trick Track says, does a mudstone capture other valuable info like plant matter? You bet it does, yeah. Let's take a look at some of that. I don't know if we have any plants to show off today, but I did find some the other day. And we've also found invertebrates, so some clammy guys, and a lot of coprolites, fossil poops. So let's take a look at some of those. I think I threw a clam over here earlier. It may have been trod upon. Maybe it's right here. There we go, yeah. Yeah, here's a fossil clam that's come out of the mudstone here. So yeah, you know, another piece of the puzzle here. This is probably washed in during like a seasonal flood or something because this all seems to be a paleosol. Did you say post-orbital?
That's what Denver says. He says, why not a post-orbital? I don't know, man.
Oh, man.
He floated the idea of it. I said maybe a broken jugal because up that road would be a hypsod hadrosaur. He's like, why not a ceratopsis post-orbital?
Wow.
That would be like best case scenario.
That would be pretty bonkers.
We want a ceratopsian.
Yeah,
we want a ceratopsian really bad.
Nuts. So that's what Neo's working on there under the foil. I won't ask him to take the foil off because he's working, but we've got potential skull bones from a horned dinosaur here. Again, this site is turning into something really special. Yeah, holy cow. That would be a big deal. That'd be pretty cool stuff. Golganex says, see, I guess so. Yes, you're right, Golganex. And Lenina says, I'm loving this crew. They're just as fun as the Wyoming crew. Excellent. Lovely.
Yeah, but I think there is a user. Yeah, that name.
And CMC Airbus, it is really nice working with this crew again. Denver's at a different site right now, but he's leading this field work out here, this whole operation. Steve is his right-hand man. Steve is in charge of this site. Let's take a look at what Steve is doing. Some jacketing over here. All right, we got some jacketing going?
Yeah, we got some Gypsona jacketing.
Nice, okay. The quick and dirty stuff.
Yeah, quick and dirty. I think I just put, that was the last. I used the whole roll for this. So it's a gauze that's pre-soaked in plaster, and it just turns to butter when you put it on. Whether you're making a cradle in the lab, which is typical. In this case, I'm making a little baby jacket for an egg.
Nice.
And, burlap with plaster in it can be a little dense. It doesn't conform as well to something this small. So I could use that in theory, but I wanted. Well, I had some Gypsona here. That's already toughening up.
We used to call those plaster grenades back in the day, in my MOR days.
Plaster grenades.
Yeah. It's a small handheld thing, and it's kind of just ready to go. You can practically just throw it onto a fossil. But yeah.
So the gauze will still move around for a little while, and then it'll set really quick.
Nice.
Yeah. There we go. I'd be happy if I could get one of these out today. That'd be 2 eggs.
Yeah, nice.
That's the wall right there.
Cool. Ooh, let me get some more water. It's important to stay hydrated out here, as you all know. But let me catch up to the chat, too. Let's see. And BDB Dawson, are there any dinosaurs you know that we can find in the future? That's the thing, is that we don't find dinosaurs using technology. Technology that's useful for that, frankly. With only a few extremely rare, like maybe one-off examples, we still find dinosaurs the old-fashioned way because that's the best way to do it. You walk along and you look at the ground and you look for bone that's eroding out, and you use your human brain to interpret it, find out what it is, dig in. Hopefully there's more of a skeleton there. Prospecting is what we call it. There are a few technological advancements that we've put to use. There's that generator over there and the air compressor. That is, well, I guess that's like 1930s technology, but it's still, it feels fairly new to us. And then I'm broadcasting to you via satellite internet right now. Here's our satellite dish and our solar battery and solar panel. But this isn't really instrumental for the fieldwork part. This is just really nice to be able to show off what we're doing. So, yeah. Anyhow. Yeah, there's not much that you can improve upon, I guess. Well, no, I take that back. There are a few things. Like Steve and I were talking about this earlier. The rotary hammer. This is something that I've seen pop up only in the last 2 years. Like the first time I used one of these was last summer in Wyoming. So this is an electric tool. You can see the battery on here. It's kind of like a mini jackhammer, and this can be really useful for breaking up some of this mudstone, and then you can shovel it away. So it just kind of loosens things up. And yeah, so we were talking about this, like, why only recently have these started to be used by field crews? Steve suggested maybe it's because solar power has become more accessible lately. More paleontologists have gotten hold of solar panels and batteries, again, like I have right there, so that we can charge these things in the field and use them. Before, you would have to like run a generator off some gasoline and then have a plug-in jackhammer or rotary hammer. But the stuff is becoming more compact and easier to use, more energy efficient, so it allows us to actually haul it out to remote field sites like this one and make use of it. But yeah, Hogan says lots of Milwaukee tools. I prefer DeWalt myself. Yeah, I was talking about that with Steve too. He's a big Milwaukee guy. He does have a few other things, but he really prefers Milwaukee. And some of the guys I was working with last week in Wyoming also prefer Milwaukee. I think it might be a bit pricier, but it's high quality. Nowadays, though, with these electric tools with the rechargeable batteries, you kind of have to pick a team, because if you're going to buy multiple tools, you want to be able to use those interchangeable batteries on different tools. And each brand has got their own special proprietary battery shape. And so you have to buy into one ecosystem or the other, pretty much. The DeWalt batteries don't work in the Milwaukee tools, or vice versa. Oh yeah. You kind of have to pick Ford or Chevy there, so to speak, and stick with that team. Yeah. And Smitty Werbin says Team Makita here. I've used Makita jackhammers in the field, the plug-in ones, and I've always been happy with them. I don't know. I don't have a horse in this fight. I don't have a preferred team. If anybody wants to sponsor me. You hear that, Milwaukee, DeWalt? Who are the other ones? Works, WORX. Amazon Basics, whatever. Yeah. Send me an email, paleontologizing@gmail.com. Yeah. Anywho, and Tomek, how are you doing? Welcome. Good to have you here. Yeah. And exactly, Hogan, yeah. And Buddha Head says this is a typical size team. This is maybe larger than usual, actually. We've got 7 people, including me, working at this site today. We actually had to bring 2 vehicles out here. We've got something like 15 people in camp right now, which is big for this museum. But when I was working in Wyoming last week, and for the 2 weeks prior to that, we had, it was like 40 people in camp. That might be the largest dinosaur digging operation in the world at the moment, in terms of like team size, crew size. Yeah. So I don't know. We've been lucky. As I was talking about with Denver yesterday, they spend about $20,000 a summer out here. That money doesn't go to wages because they can't afford that. Everybody here is a volunteer, except for Steve and Deanna and Denver, who are like museum employees. But all of us, the rest of us, are volunteering out here. So that $20,000 covers all of the food, all of the fuel, as far as I know, all of the equipment, all of the plaster and burlap and other consumable supplies that we need. Everything for 3 months of field work. So like 90 days, $20,000. That's very cost effective. Like, holy cow. for $20,000 in other fields of science, like, you can't run a single experiment for that much. But here, they can dig for 3 months and discover probably several new species, another critter, all for $20,000, you know? Imagine what they could do with $100,000 a summer. Paleontology is an extremely cost-efficient science, for the most part. We do a lot with very little money. Yeah. And One Fun Panda says no grants? I don't think we have any grants to be out here, no. I mean, in the US, grant funding is not what it used to be. I mean, federal funding of science has been pretty well strangled at this point. The Trump administration is kind of actively trying to kill science in its cradle. It's not pretty. Like, it's a really bad situation. And I have a bunch of colleagues who, like, they've had to postpone their scientific careers because there's just no money right now. Different labs are being shut down. Museums are closing their doors. Whole programs are closing up. We're really lucky in that the Badlands Dinosaur Museum has a bit of money that they get from the city because it's a municipal museum, and the museum helps bring in tourist dollars to the town, so the town definitely benefits directly from that. It's actually a great deal for the town of Dickinson, North Dakota. Really put them on the map in a lot of ways. And there's a few private funders that they have, but we don't have like an NSF grant or anything like that. There's nothing like that that's funding us, as far as I understand. Yeah. If any of you would like to help support the work that we're doing out here, there's a few fun ways that you can do that. You might consider looking at the online gift shop. You can get some really cool merchandise that you can't get anywhere else, and those proceeds directly benefit the museum and the fieldwork and research that Badlands Dinosaur Museum does. We'll take a look at Steve's sweatshirt over there. This is one of the cool things that you can get. I need to get some more t-shirts. I asked Liz to bring me one for when she drives up here tomorrow, but check out that sweatshirt that Steve has got. Yeah. Featuring can't see anywhere else in the world except at that museum. Again, I'm doing a little like spiel about that's one of the ways that folks at home can help fund this program.
You see me standing out in the sun and the heat
Yeah.
in a black hoodie.
Sweatshirt. Like,
now there is a lot of wind. It is cooling, but this just isn't heating up. Like my other black clothing will heat up, absolutely, but it's some sort of like cotton blend.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it doesn't shrink when you wash it either.
Nice.
Which is,
it's high quality stuff. That's
yeah.
I would like try and manhandle the back of it and look at the tag to see what the composition is, but I'm not going to do that on stream. Yeah.
I can do it myself.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh, wow.
Let's see, we have it's a blend. It's 50% cotton, 50% polyester.
Nice.
Yeah.
I feel like if I were to wear that in the sun, I would perish very quickly.
Typically I would too, but it's very breathable.
That's
like
awesome.
the air
Yeah.
kind of goes through it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I should have
Nice.
brought more.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. Hopefully Liz will be bringing some more t-shirts and stuff for us. And Brian's got his the t-shirt there too, if a hoodie isn't your thing. Look at that. Looking good, Brian. Nice. This is the same one I have at home. I really like the green color.
Yeah.
It's like kind of a grayish green, but I've been told it really brings out my eyes. So, yeah, it's good stuff. And they're not that expensive either. So, again, check out the gift shop.
And this is he has the same we've updated it to include Dickinson, North Dakota.
Nice.
Had a lot of requests.
Uh-huh.
So now we're doing this design on the t-shirts and our newest wave. Sorry, this design on the hoodies, and our newest wave has the Lambeosaurus.
Right,
on the
which
t-shirts.
hopefully I'll be showing off in a few days. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really neat just to see like the local pride in this museum. Like, you guys are putting Dickinson on the map in a lot of ways, and yeah, it's pretty neat. As a municipal museum, it's important and you guys are really doing that. So, yeah.
I mean, we are the tourist drive, and we are. If you're coming east of us, which most people are, you come from Chicago, New York, New England, wherever, even Florida, and you want to go to Glacier National Park, Yellowstone, Theodore Roosevelt, which is North Dakota, you have to pass through Dickinson. Yeah. And it's an empty stretch of road to the east and to the west. So everybody's stopping. There's a bunch of Tesla chargers and things in Dickinson. We have EV chargers at the museum as well.
Oh, nice. I remember that. Yeah, cool.
So it's just the right size where you can get through in an hour, you know, and be happy and have charged your car. Yeah.
And if you got screaming kids in the back, I want McDonald's! There's a McDonald's right next to the museum. So.
and we're lucky that our city supports us and they want us to be here because they want dinosaurs. Yeah. You know, in Dickinson, there's dinosaur logos all over the place. But, you know, there's only one place you can come to see dinosaurs.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Let's get another link in the chat for. And thank you for the shout out for FossilPreparator. Steve also streams on Twitch. We'll keep saying that. Yeah. But yeah, he has a really cool channel that he'll be streaming more on when he's back from the field. But right now, he's out here, you know, collecting fossils. But what was it? Thank you, Claire. Yeah. And I don't know. Denver Fowler will not send you a signed dinosaur postcard with your order because he's out here in the field. But we gotta. Claire, would you mind taking that part off of the command? I wrote that last February, February 2025. That's no longer true. He's a little too busy digging up dinosaurs to do that. But there's all kinds of cool merch, some new designs. I'm really excited to get the Lambeosaurus t-shirt. It's going to be neat. Yeah, thank you, Claire. I appreciate it. But yeah. And Amelia Violette with an excellent question here. Did dinosaurs have eyelids similar to crocs? You're talking about the nictitating membrane? The answer is yes. Yeah. So crocodilians today, have this weird, well, it's not weird, it's actually normal. We're the weird ones as mammals, or we don't really have it anymore. It's called a nictitating membrane. So there's the upper eyelid and the lower eyelid that close up and down like that. And then there's a sideways one called a nictitating membrane that goes like that. Birds have that today, crocs have that today, and during the Mesozoic, dinosaurs would have had that too. So that the nictitating membrane is generally clear, or at least translucent. Yeah, that's one of those things that you don't see enough in dinosaur media. Like when people do paintings or CGI renderings of dinosaurs and stuff, it's not often enough that you see the nictitating membrane. But it was a cool thing that they had. And it's another example of where the EPB is kind of instrumental, the extant phylogenetic bracket. Basically, if there's something that we want to know about extinct dinosaurs that we have difficulty deciphering from the fossil record, maybe the thing just doesn't fossilize, like, say, eyelids. Well, one way of kind of organizing our thoughts about this and trying to figure out if dinosaurs had it or not is to look at their closest living relatives. Crocs, who are like cousins to the dinosaurs, and birds, who literally are living dinosaurs. They are a kind of dinosaur. They evolved from earlier dinosaurs. And both crocs and birds have that nictitating membrane, so we are pretty darn certain that non-bird dinosaurs had that too, back in the Mesozoic era. If they didn't, it would be really weird. It would mean that they went out of their way to evolve to not have that, and we've got no reason to think that's the case. So, pretty darn sure most, if not all, non-avian dinosaurs had a nictitating membrane. Anywho. And Lenina, yeah, thank you. And Buddhahead says, did they ever discover dinosaurs from different eras at the same site? If I take your question very literally, the answer is no. All dinosaurs are from the Mesozoic era that went from about 251 million years ago until 66 million years ago. So by definition, all of the non-bird dinosaurs are all from the same era. But if you're talking about dinosaurs from different time periods, also no. That's just not how geology works, you know? These rocks that we're digging in age, and yeah, it represents a particular time. You're not going to get dinosaurs from earlier or later at this site. You could maybe have like an extremely weird, well, it would be something that would really stretch the definition of what you're saying. So like, maybe there's a dinosaur that swallowed a stone, and that stone is the fossilized remains of a dinosaur from 20 million years earlier or something. So you find it in its rib cage, and it's just like a smooth stone, but it has bone texture. But I don't know if that's ever been documented. That's like me trying to come up with a story to make that scenario work. And it just kind of doesn't work. However, if I want to be cheeky about this, I could say, oh yeah, well, we definitely have dinosaurs from 2 different eras at this site. You know, we've got our duckbill dinosaur, and maybe our ceratopsian, if it is a ceratopsian. They're from the Cretaceous period, from the Mesozoic era. And then we have members of the Passeriformes from the Cenozoic era who are flying over the site. So we have modern birds that show up here at the quarry. I showed you a rock wren earlier. They're dinosaurs. Birds are dinosaurs, and we get birds that fly overhead. So I guess we do have dinosaurs from 2 different eras at the same site. You know? Technically. And everybody knows that anything that's technically true, that's the best kind of true, is technically true, you know? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. And Dawn has a story of that, says Claire, about a dinosaur visiting the site? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we get birds doing that. They show up sometimes. It's always fun to see them. And Trick Track says, I saw on Wikipedia that Stone Age humans collected dinosaur fossils in Montana. Probably. They would have picked up all kinds of stuff. You know, people during the Stone Age were just like people today. They were curious. They'd pick things up off the ground. If anything, those people were much more in tune with nature than we are today, because they're living in it full time, you know? Yeah, but they wouldn't have known what those things were. It's like, here's a weird rock. Look at that. What's this about? Finding a gastrolith of another fossil. Oh, interesting, Claire. I need to ask Dawn about that, because I kind of forget that. Yeah. Could have been a gastrolith that turned out to be fossil bone. I'm sure that's happened a few times. I don't know if he ever wrote that up, though. That might be one of those stories where it's like, we think that's what's going on, but nobody's really studied it in depth to make absolutely sure. But remind me later in the summer when we're streaming with Uncle Don. We'll see if we can get him to tell that story, because that's a fascinating one, and I want to know more. Yeah. I mean, let me get some more water. Professor Frank, exactly Helvetica scenario, yeah. Holy Glaven, technically. Yeah. Alright, water time. We're coming up on 4 o'clock here. We've got about another hour of today's stream before we wrap things up. It's funny how much slower the weekend streams are oftentimes. But yeah, if anybody here's got any other questions, don't be shy. That's what we're all about. And yeah, there we go, Reshwang, yeah. If anyone's just joining us, welcome to Paleontologizing. I'm streaming to you live via satellite, solar-powered satellite, in beautiful northern Montana, near the town of Havre. We're digging in late Cretaceous rock from about 76 million years ago. What is on paper the Judith River Formation, but really should probably be called the Dinosaur Park Formation, even though that's restricted to Canada. You know, geology doesn't actually respect international boundaries. The rocks have been here much longer than human settlements and our our petty squabbles over borders and what have you. Anywho, we're digging up several dinosaurs and eggs at this site. Let me know if you've got any questions. Maybe we'll go back to the quarry in a minute. Yeah. Dragon, are they unhatched or hatched eggs? They seem to be both, Charlie's Dragon, yeah. Kind of explodey, like there's just fragments of shell all over the place. So those are probably eggs that hatched, and there are other ones that probably got buried before they hatched. Or maybe they got stepped on and didn't hatch, or who knows. But we've got both hatched and unhatched eggs at the site. Yeah. And Cacklin's Wharf, that's an interesting idea, but I don't know. I'm hesitant to attribute any particular myths and legends to fossils. While that can be a fun and exciting idea that ancient people found fossils and then they thought that it inspired the legend of this mythical creature or that mythical creature or this supernatural event or whatever. But I think more often than not, it's kind of wishful thinking. It's like people are very creative. They come up with all kinds of different interesting stories. Just because there was a fossil from that particular region that if you squint might kind of somewhat look like it could have inspired this or that legend. I mean, it's always a really difficult thing to test. I don't know. So I'm always a little bit hesitant. I think particularly because, man, would I want that to be true. It'd be so cool if all kinds of neat like myths and legends were directly inspired by fossil discoveries that ancient people made. They're like trying to make sense of this bone or that skeleton and like, what is this? Oh, let's come up with a legend of dragons or feathered serpents or a cyclops or whatever. But I don't know. Because I really want that idea to be true, I've got to be extra careful as a scientist to not get swept away in my enthusiasm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. And we talk about hadrosaur skin and skin impressions. Hadrosaur hoof site. That was 2 years ago, Claire. That was 2023. I think, if we're talking about the same one. The Lex site, 2020. Picking. But yeah, that is something that happens every once in a while. Maybe we can ask Steve about that. He'll have some insights. But yeah, duckbill dinosaurs, for whatever reason, they seem to be found with skin. Maybe they had particularly tough skin, or maybe their skin, there's something about the chemistry there where it's more likely to fossilize. Maybe they preferred environments where you'd get that kind of preservation. Or maybe it's just the sort of thing where it's dumb luck, where, I don't know, somebody early on in the early 1900s found a duckbill dinosaur with fossilized skin, and then everybody knew that when they were digging up a duckbill dinosaur after that, if they ever found one, like, oh, we should. Because found, so we should be extra careful and look for it, and be careful not to dig straight through it. I don't know. Steve in a minute.
Underneath.
Look at that texture.
There's eggshell right there.
Nice.
Just dipping under. I don't know how deep I have to go to where eggs stop showing up. This is definitive site fidelity.
Man,
cool.
Yeah.
So now the question is, what goes with what? And that could be a question for after the lab.
Right.
Who knows when I'll actually get everything sorted. Mm-hmm. It'll never really all be sorted. That's science, right?
Yeah. But we can at least learn more and come up with better testable hypotheses.
So right now, Brian's putting a strap around the jacket here.
Nice. Around the underside, yeah.
Yeah. To prevent cave-ins and give it more tensional strength.
Yeah.
In this direction.
Excellent. Cool. All right.
You can't be surprised by anything.
Yep. We did have a question from the chat, Steve, about
take that somewhere.
About duckbill skin.
Yeah.
And this is something that you've thought a lot about.
That's true.
Do you think that skin on hadrosaurs is actually preserved more frequently than in other groups of dinosaurs? And if it is, what do you think's going on?
Which way should I set
Um.
this? Rock side down?
Oh, hold on. He has a question.
Sure.
Wag. We're gonna get some paper towel on that and get a cap over it eventually.
All right.
So wet paper towel and a cap, but it can't be thinned down because there's egg on it.
Okay.
I think in many places where you find skin, duckbills are just the most common large dinosaur.
So it's like a depositional environment thing? Like...
Yeah, I mean, there are reports of Tyrannosaurus skin. We probably know Sereno's specimen.
Yeah.
And there are preserved soft tissues in almost every class of fossilized organism I can think of.
Sure.
Some duckbills, Saurolophines in particular, would have very thick, very dense, like more leathery skin. So I think, that kind of skin is easier to find when it's preserved. There are different modes of preservation. So Clint Boyd has, different categories he gives for mummies. He doesn't like the word mummy, but people call them mummies. There are impression mummies, so the dinosaur just left an impression that's not actually preserved soft tissue. Yeah. Then there are iron mummies, and that's more of a chemical reaction with iron in the groundwater that helps preserve the skin. And then there are a few categories in between. So, the location's very important. And you have to be looking. Like our Lambeosaurus skin, the Lambeosaurus at Jack's bone bed. You were there yesterday. It's impossible to see unless you know it's there. Right. Unless you know where the rock cleaves. And honestly, we don't know the extent of it. We don't even explore. We left quite a swath of area in that big block untouched because you need things beyond human eyesight to help you out.
So like X-ray fluorescence and infrared and things like
infrared, even shortwave UV. We'll tell you some things, but soft tissue preservation as a whole, very common.
Gotcha.
People either haven't looked or it was too much of a hassle for them. We've heard about Triceratops with skin, and, the skin just being prepared off, ripped off, because we want to see the skeleton. And it's like, that's not science.
Right.
But, you wonder how long that's been going on.
Good points. Thanks, Steve. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. It's nice to get insight from Steve on stuff like this because, I don't know, he's done a lot of thinking about it. And as someone who works in fossil prep, that's again his handle on Twitch is FossilPreparator. Excited for him to start streaming again. This is what he does, cleaning fossils in the lab and also digging them up here in the field. It's nice to have that confluence. Like, he can excavate the fossils in the field. He knows exactly how they were collected. He gets a sense for how the rock breaks and everything so that when they're brought back to the lab, he knows exactly how to open up the jacket, which parts to be careful around, all of that. It's cool. And then he's got like a strong focus on how to best prepare those fossils in order to be able to glean the most information from them, Doing things like looking out for soft tissue, making sure that you're not digging straight through fossil skin and stuff to get to the bone underneath. That is a perspective that I wish more people had in this field. And it's interesting to hear him say that soft tissue is much less rare than people think. It's more common. It's kind of all over the place if you just know what to look for. So yeah. Anywho. And CMC Airbus is there a non-profit org that people where people can donate money for expeditions like these? Yeah. The Badlands Dinosaur Museum is the organization that we're working with. That's our museum that all these fossils are going to be going to. And that museum has a donate page. I think we might even have, it's like BDM donate or something. Might have a special command for that. Thank you, Claire. Excellent. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. If anyone's feeling generous, or if you want to get something off the merch site, the Badlands Dinosaur Museum gift shop has an online page where you can get all kinds of cool dinosaur merch that's exclusive to this museum and the dinosaurs that we dig up here. So they also make great gifts, you know, a t-shirt, water bottles are new. They've got a special laser engraver, so you can get a really cool metal water bottle with a Daspletosaurus or a Lambeosaurus on it. Like scientifically accurate skeletal reconstructions. You can't get that anywhere else. It's a unique, top-tier kind of item. So I'd recommend that. Spartan says, have you talked about the T-Rex purse? I don't even want to hear about that. I don't know. It bugs me when, like, you have somebody trying to leech off of the popularity of dinosaurs with a scam product like that. It's so frustrating. I don't know. They're going to sell that for some obscene amount of money, whereas, you know, folks like us are literally working unpaid in the field to be able to do this cool science. That's what makes dinosaurs cool. And then other people are able to, like, profit massively off of that, and they didn't do any of the work. So, yeah. Not a fan. I'll put it that way. Yeah. And Geekster, the wind is a little calmer. I'm hoping it picks up a little bit, actually, because we're starting to see the mosquitoes come forth. This is about the time of day yesterday when we started to see the mosquitoes, and then they just got crazy. I did bring my bug repellent today, so I'm not unprepared, but if the wind picks up, we won't even have to worry about it. So cross your fingers we get some wind. That's a weird kind of duck. What was that? It's too small to show on camera, like too far away, but I don't know what kind of duck that was. Going down there to the river. There's the Milk River running through here, which also runs through southern Canada. One of the tributaries of the Missouri River, the mighty Missouri, that Lewis and Clark paddled up during their famous expedition in the 18th century. Yeah. Do we have any other questions I'm missing? About how dinosaurs are related to other animals. So let me get out that diagram. It's always a fun one. What is a dinosaur and what isn't? When we're talking about groups of living things, groups of organisms, the most important thing to know is that they share common ancestry, and that's how we classify living things. When we say that something is a reptile, or something is a mammal, or something is a bird, or something is a dinosaur, we don't just mean that it looks a certain way or has a certain kind of vibe. You know, it's not subjective like that. When we say that critters are related or they're part of the same group, what we mean is they actually come from the same ancestor. So when we say that two critters are related to each other, we mean that literally. We mean that they both evolved from the same ancestor, which is why they are closely related. We call this phylogeny. Like, you can build a big evolutionary family tree to show how different critters are related to each other. And as far as we know, all living things on our planet are related. Everything from bacteria to blue whales. You go back far enough in time, and everything came from the same ancestor. Would have been a little single-celled organism around about 3 or 4 billion years ago. Here's a neat diagram that shows dinosaurs and the other amniotes. So this is kind of a special focus on dinosaurs here. Amniotes are critters. They're descendants of previous animals that came up onto land. They started laying hard-shelled eggs on land, and it kind of allowed them to sort of take over the world. So amniotes include the mammals and the reptiles. So the synapsids and the sauropsids, respectively. So in order to get the dinosaurs... Oh, swatting a mosquito on my leg. In order to get to dinosaurs, you go up this part of the tree. Dinosaurs start right here. So everything that evolves from this ancestor is a dinosaur. We call these critters dinosaurs because they all evolved from that same ancestor. That's why they are dinosaurs. Pterosaurs over here, aka pterodactyls, as members of the public like to call them, these guys are not dinosaurs. They're close. They share the same ancestor as the first dinosaur, like there, but you gotta go further back in time. These guys are not dinosaurs. They're close, but no cigar. Dinosaurs are everything that evolves from this animal. This includes modern birds. You can trace their ancestry back through the theropods, there's theropods there, to the first dinosaurs. Does that make sense? So yeah, other critters like mosasaurs, the seagoing lizards, they're over here next to the snakes and the monitor lizards. Ichthyosaurs are way over here. Plesiosaurs are way over here. Your long-necked and short-necked plesiosaurs. Turtles are actually in the wrong spot on this diagram. Turtles should be right about there next to pseudosuchians. So they're a kind of like archelosaur, so they're sister to the archosaurs. Anyhow, turtles are actually closer to dinosaurs than lizards or plesiosaurs are. But yeah. So anyhow, I hope that makes sense. Yeah. This is the sort of thing that is the most basic concept in all of biology. Phylogeny is like the critical, fundamental idea that undergirds all of the biological sciences. When we look at something like this grand tree of life, every living thing on our planet can be plotted on a grand tree of life like this. It is... If you don't know this, you don't know anything. Which is why it's so appalling that in American schools in particular, this sort of thing is rarely taught, because there's a lot of people who are really scared and angry about this idea. A lot of politicians and a lot of religious leaders, they hate this idea. But this is what undergirds all of biology, literally. This is the fundamental concept. So I really wish it were better taught, but there's a lot of very powerful, influential people who don't want you to know about this. Even though, talk to any biologist, any paleontologist, any botanist or mycologist, or any other scientist who studies living things or extinct things, they'll tell you that is fundamental. Yeah. And Crimino Loden says, where would the tremors from graboids, the graboids from tremors fit into that chart? They're a fictional creature. I don't know. If I had to classify them, I'd say there's some sort of weird... I would guess that they're related to worms or something, but I don't know. I saw that movie Tremors again not too long ago. It was like a year or two ago. And I don't know. They would be animals, I think, because they move and they are heterotrophic, so they don't produce their own food. They eat other living things. So those are usually characteristics of animals. So they wouldn't be fungi or plants. Yeah, they're mobile. I don't remember if they have eyes or not. I think they hear things. But there's a lot of annelids, like worms, that also don't have eyes. My wild guess would be that if they were a real thing, that they would be related to something like a worm. But again, they're a fictional creature, so they don't have an ancestor. They're just made up. But yeah, anyway, the point is we classify living things based on what they evolved from, based on their ancestry, based on their family lineage. That two critters are related, we don't mean that in an arbitrary sense. We don't just mean like, oh yeah, they got similar vibes, I guess. Like, no, we mean something very concrete when we say two critters are related. We mean they evolved from the same ancestor not too long ago. That's why they're close relatives. The more distant that common ancestor is, the further back in time, the less closely related those critters are. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's a really powerful way of looking at the world around us. You can look at a landscape like this, and if you're thinking about it phylogenetically, you know, you look and you see these, oh, let's look at these plants over here. So plants like this are, like us, fellow living things. We share a common ancestor, but to get to that common ancestor between this and this, you got to go back several billion years. We are not close relatives. We do have characteristics in common. So plants also have cells, and those cells have organelles in them. We're what we call eukaryotes. So they have a nucleus in their cell, it's same as animals. But there's a lot of things that are different, so we have some things in common with plants, but not very many. We as humans have much more in common, unfortunately, with these mosquitoes that are starting to come out now. Ugh. But mosquitoes are a kind of animal. They have nucleated cells. They are eukaryotes, just like we and plants are. But mosquitoes are straight up a kind of animal. They don't produce their own food like plants do. They try and eat me instead. And yeah, they have specialized body parts. They have bilateral symmetry. In the same way that, like, if you were to take a picture of me, you could draw a line straight down the middle of my nose and my chin. And then my right and left sides are pretty much identical. That's called bilateral symmetry. Insects, like, generally speaking. So yeah, the human lineage and the mosquito lineage split probably about 800 million years ago, maybe a billion years ago, something like that. So much more recently than the human lineage and the plant lineage split. So I am much more closely related to a mosquito than I am to a plant. Likewise, there's birds flying around over here too. They are even more closely related to mammals in the grand scheme of things. Birds are a kind of amniote. So they evolved from reptiles. They evolved from a kind of dinosaur. And so, unlike insects, birds have a skeleton inside them. They have bones, just like we do, you know? Yeah, and they, what are some other things? They produce an amniotic egg, which ancestrally mammals did too. Mosquitoes don't do that. So they have like a yolk and an amnion and everything else inside of a shelled egg. The first mammals did that too, and then mammals later got rid of that. Placental mammals, they still have remnants of that, but it's like internal to the body. They don't really lay eggs anymore. Yeah. Is this stuff making sense? I hope it is. And longtime viewers have heard me say this a million times, but hopefully it's not too repetitive, not too boring. Yeah. And let's see, let me continue to catch up the chat here. Did Mopar have a question? Oh, what kind of dinosaur is Barney? I think Barney is supposed to be some kind of theropod dinosaur. He's got a big head. He doesn't really have sharp teeth because he's so cutesy. But I think the intention was that he's supposed to be like a big cuddly theropod dinosaur. So he does walk on two legs. So he's not a sauropod. He's not quadrupedal, doesn't have a long neck and tail. He's some kind of theropod. I think maybe he was supposed to be a tyrannosaur or something, but yeah. Again, we're talking about a, fictional creature here. So it's difficult to pin down exactly what genus or species that would be, you know? Yeah. And Spaceberry says, I still hate mosquitoes. You know, I love all of Earth's creatures, but maybe I love mosquitoes a little less than some other ones. I'll put it that way. They're always trying to bite me. Hey, Brianna Sings, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Good to have you here. Yeah. And thank you, Cacklinsworth. Appreciate you being here. Have a good rest of your day. Yeah. Oh, and I'm like, oh man, the mosquito's back. That's the air scribe I'm hearing over there. Let's go back to the quarry and take a look. Yeah. And I agree, Cacklinsworth. I agree. Wise words there. Yeah. Steve, do you think we'll go until about 5, or do you think we'll go later today? Just based on how things are going. Okay.
It's just depends on who's doing what.
When's a good stopping point and all that, yeah. I'll probably still end the stream at 5, everybody, in about half an hour, but yeah. How's it going, Charlie? Oh, nice. What is that?
See, it's kind of thin, so I don't really think it's a limb bone. Unless it's split in half on the bottom, which I don't know yet.
It does not look limby to me, no.
I was thinking, I still think it's postcranial, but maybe pelvic girdle area, like the pelvic area.
I could see that being a chunk of ilium or something.
Yeah, I was thinking
pubis,
ilium,
maybe?
But like I could be totally wrong. Pubis or ilium, but I mean, it very well maybe some.
And those are ancient breaks, right? So like it got broken up before it got buried.
Yeah.
So
we'll find out.
Weird and flat.
Yeah, and like I see, like here, this doesn't look like a break-off point. This looks like, I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's like a weird shelf.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could also, well, it doesn't quite look like turtle. It's way too thick for that.
No. We'll find out.
Yeah. And it doesn't quite have like ceratopsid structure, like texture. What that is. Yeah.
We'll find out.
But cool. Thanks, Charlie. New stuff, good work. Yeah.
I wasn't really sure what to do because as I started to trench, it's shattering so much, it's like getting right up to the bone.
Tricky. Oh, and there's a bird. Hey, swallow friend. I think that's either a cliff swallow or a barn, probably a cliff swallow. I think I saw their mud nests on one of the cliffs over there. You probably barely see it in the camera, but it's cool to watch them flit around, and I hope they're eating plenty of mosquitoes. You get them, swallow. Swallow up those mosquitoes. Nice. It has been a good day to dig knitting, absolutely. Yeah. Found lots of good stuff today. More eggs, more bones. This site, like, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. We were hoping we'd be able to wrap this up, but we just keep finding more and more stuff, so this site will continue to demand our attention. A month or something? I'll be gone by then. I'm taking off like next Thursday. Yeah. Let's see. And, oh, Ren Out of Time says, I was at the live stream at the Carnegie Museum last week. Oh, very cool. Welcome, welcome, Ren Out of Time. I like your username, by the way. I love songbirds. You briefly touched on something that piqued my curiosity. Do bones ever get discovered on anymore? Oh yeah, they do. So in this area, there's actually a lot of private land, and there are what we call commercial outfits who will dig there. And these are people who are not digging the fossils up for science, they're digging them up to sell them. Because dinosaurs are very popular. Again, it's kind of frustrating, because like, we as paleontologists are out here digging, and we usually do that, we're not getting paid to do this. We do it because we love it and it's important for the science, and we're the ones who discovered dinosaurs and study them and put them in museums and publish papers on them, and you know, it's a labor of love. We're the ones who make dinosaurs cool in the first place by studying them. And then other people, for good or for ill, I think largely for ill, they look at dinosaurs and it's like their pupils turn into dollar signs. They're like, oh, I could make a buck off of that, you know? The public thinks dinosaurs are cool. Let's go find some bones and dig them up and sell them piece by piece. And there's a spectrum there where like some commercial groups actually do help out science, and, you know, I don't want to slag those people off. But here's the thing, like when... Oh, sorry, there's a big horse fly. I hope it doesn't come for me. It was landing on the mic. When you're digging up fossils for profit, suddenly time is money, and you got to work as quickly as possible. And you don't have time to be able to meticulously collect data and very carefully dig out the smallest, most delicate bones and everything. You're just digging through as fast as you can, ripping out bones, all of that, because again, time is money. It's like data is overhead. You know, you got to cut that stuff down. So I heard of a group working in this same coulee further up where they literally just bring in a tractor and they dig up the whole hillside and just destroy everything, and they pick up the chunks of dinosaur bone and then they sell them as chunks, and people will go and buy them. You know, it's not ideal. Anyway, they get to do that on private land. Here in the United States, we have limited protections for important vertebrate fossils. We're working here on public land, so these fossils belong to we, the people of the United States. They need to go to a museum and be held in the public trust. They're a public good, you know? No one individual person can own them or sell them or buy them. But if fossils are found on private land, then they are, under U.S. law, the property of the private landowner. They could choose to donate those fossils to a museum, or they could choose to sell them, or they could throw them into a lake. It could be the most scientifically important dinosaur fossil ever found. If it's found on private land, the private landowner gets to do whatever he wants with it. And there are horrific stories of this sort of thing happening where somebody finds a really, really cool fossil that could be really scientifically important, and then it either gets destroyed by a commercial group because they don't know how to dig it up properly, or they do dig it up and then they sell it to some wealthy person and it just disappears, you know? It's in some rich guy's mantelpiece, you know? Not available for scientific study. The public doesn't get to enjoy it. It's private property. It just disappears. Happens all the time. So I hope that answers your question. Public land means public fossils, public museum. You need special permits to be able to dig on public land, which is what we have here at the Badlands Dinosaur Museum. If it's private land, then it's up to the private landowner, and he can do whatever he chooses with it. So yeah. Hope that answers your question. Yeah. And we do need more protections. I agree, stop using it. I mean, I agree with your username too. But yeah, there are other countries where like vertebrate fossils belong to science. You know, if you find a dinosaur that's scientifically important, that belongs to science. Canada is like this. Mongolia is like this. Argentina is like this. There are a lot of countries around the world where they recognize the importance of their fossil heritage and they want to protect it. And there can be some pitfalls there. I don't want to say it's all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, but for the most part, I think that's a system that kind of makes more sense. But yeah, I don't know. In the U.S., the almighty dollar rules everything. That's the official religion of the United States, is capitalism. Everything must be bought and sold. So, yeah, don't get me started. But yeah. Internet Explorer says, are there any notable dinosaur fossils showing genetic defects? Not that I'm aware of, no. I don't think you would consider cancer one of those, right? There is a famous Centrosaurus shin bone that supposedly shows a cancerous growth on it. But then I've heard somebody else back in camp who's looked at this and they're like, no, it's not cancer. It's just it's a broken bone that healed weirdly. So I used to trot out that example as like, oh yeah, we've got evidence of cancer in dinosaur fossils, but now I'm not so sure. Anywho. And Kaiser Trinity, Denmark in a museum. Yeah, it's a Tyrannosaurus specimen. I've had my doubts about that. Like, anytime that you have a commercial specimen like that, that usually means it was dug out very quickly. There might not be a lot of data associated with it, and how much of the skeleton is even real. When you have a dinosaur fossil that is sold at auction, you have market forces at work, which means that they're going to do whatever they can to make it look as big and impressive and complete as possible. So sometimes things get filled in, like, any gaps in the skeleton, they'll do their best to cover those up. Maybe mix in bones from other animals, fossil casts from members of the same species. It's just a lot of funny business that goes on when profit is the primary motive. You know what I mean? Paleontology is it's a really difficult field to make a profit in. And so in order to do that, if you're a for-profit enterprise, often you have to resort to some less than savory methods. Again, this is my opinion. This is not the official view of the Badlands Dinosaur Museum or this crew or anything like that. This is just me speaking my piece about this, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but yeah. Yeah. And Ren Out of Time says, I've heard so many awful stories about archaeological finds being ripped out and losing the data of their context. That's exactly what happens with dinosaur fossils when they're excavated commercially, oftentimes. Because the surrounding data is just as important as the fossil is. So like when we're working here at this site, we're digging very slowly and carefully, trying to collect every bit of information that we can, because everything is valuable. But also, we got to make sure that we're preserving the geological context here. So the surrounding sediment and stuff might have important clues in it. There might be pollen and things like that. And all of that will be studied in the lab. But also the larger geological context is extremely important too. So like the layer that this comes from, we will trace that same rock layer across these other bluffs and maybe even across the valley, and we'll be able to mark where in time the specimen came from. Because that is crucially important. If you want to be able to understand these dinosaurs and the world that they lived in, you have to have that context. Because as you move up and down through these rock layers, you will find different kinds of dinosaurs. And if you don't take note of exactly the right layer where this came from, you're missing all of that context. It's just gone. And the funny thing is, this is kind of a recent thing. A lot of the specimens that you find in like East Coast museums, they often don't have that context. Back in the Wild West days, when people like Marsh and Cope were out here battling to find the most fossils and the biggest, best fossils, they weren't really taking good data on where their fossils came from in time. So they might have really spectacular specimens, but sometimes they're scientifically useless because we don't know where exactly in time they came from. If you do that right, like we're doing here, if you make sure that you're recording all of this information and you're recording the stratigraphic data, the strata are the different rock layers. If you're recording that stratigraphic information, then that means that you know exactly where in time these critters came from, and you can compare them to the ones above and below and further below still. And then with enough specimens, you can watch these animals evolve over time. You see the changes that occur over thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. And that is so important. And that's kind of, in many ways, the future of dinosaur paleontology is high-resolution stratigraphic analysis. Being able to watch these ecosystems change over time, watch the animals themselves evolve, watch the entire ecosystem kind of ebb and flow. And then you can correlate that to what's happening with sea level rise and fall out on the seaway miles away back in the Cretaceous period. And you can see how these environments respond to how the sea levels are rising or falling, and how Earth temperature is changing over time, and how the climate is evolving. All of this stuff is one puzzle, essentially, that we're trying to piece together bit by bit. You can't do that if you don't have good data, you know? If you just wrench a dinosaur out of the ground without context, it's useless. Can't use that for science. So, I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, the story of those two. Oh, what was this? Oh, Martian Cope ran out of time? Yeah. Yeah, I think Cope actually came up here to the Judith River group and, named some of the dinosaurs. He named, what was it? Monoclonius, I think, might have been a Cope taxon. And a few others, so he did some work up in this part of Montana. Found some cool stuff. And, that's the neat thing, too, is that those specimens that he dug up that don't really have a lot of context, they don't have data on them, sometimes, once in a blue moon, you'll have a crew that's doing some prospecting, they're exploring for new sites, and they'll find a hole in the ground with chunks of plaster, maybe old tin cans or newspaper, and they can actually figure out, like, oh, shoot, this was a pit where Edward Drinker Cope was digging up a horned dinosaur here back in the 1880s. And that way you actually can get the context and the data for that old specimen in some dusty old East Coast museum. That sort of thing happens, you know? Darren Tanke from Alberta, Canada, he has a wonderful talk on YouTube about relocating old fossil sites and using all kinds of interesting clues to figure out who was it who was digging here back in the day and what specimen in the museum is from this exact pit in the ground. Doing things like digging up, looking for scraps of old newspaper at the site, or tin cans, or like a beer bottle or something. Might even have a date stamped on it. And then you can get archaeologists and historians, people who study human artifacts, and they can identify, oh, well, here's a can opener that was only manufactured between 1907 and 1909, and so we can bracket the time here, and we can cross-reference that with this chunk of newspaper. This particular font was used by this newspaper during this year, and they use these different clues to figure out exactly when that site was dug in the first place. Really interesting stuff. And it's one of the few places where, like, paleontology and archaeology meet up, You have an archaeological study of a paleontological site. So archaeology can help inform us about paleontology in that case. It's neat stuff. If anybody has a link to is that it there? Thank you, Claire, for posting that. Brilliant. Yeah. Nice. And Lord Powder says, is it possible that there were other life forms on Earth that simply did not fossilize? Aliens? I mean, I guess. But there's no reason to think that there were. Any more than like, well, maybe there was a species of gigantic diaphanous leprechauns with no hard parts. And they were filled with helium, and they drifted around the landscape, and they ruled the earth for 1,000 years, but they left no fossils. Yeah, maybe, sure, but we have no reason to think that that's the case. There's no evidence, That's the thing about science is, and I'm not trying to jump down your throat about this. I'm not, but I think that's the thing about science that a lot of people don't realize is that. It's about testing ideas. Science is all about gathering information, following it where it leads, using that information to run tests, to try and falsify or validate certain ideas. It's fun to come up with stories and stuff, and sometimes there's nothing wrong with that, with coming up with a good, fun story, but just don't think that that's science, Science is about testing ideas using evidence. So yeah. Follow this leprechaun. There you go, Care Bear bonfire, yeah. And what's the protocol if you dig up a xenomorph egg?
Ontogeny.
Egg, Tomic? That's what we're doing now, seems looking. Using Latin there. Xenomorph means strange form. So, I don't know, some of the eggs we're digging up now look pretty strange, but they're not that strange when you think about how Lambeosaur dinosaurs' eggs would have compressed over time and they flatten out and all that. But the process for digging up eggs is, well, you try to get around them, you expose their aerial extent, and then you put a jacket around them and take them out, like we're doing here. So yeah.
By 5 o'clock, you just start giving up all hope.
Yep.
You wanted to do about twice as much as what you actually got done.
Yep.
And that's normal.
Fair enough. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, my brain is not working as much as it was this morning. But we got some eggs out.
Yep. We've got some jackets to bring back to camp, right? That'll be heavy.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about that.
Yeah, fair. We'll do that another time, maybe. Bring some other crew members over. Yeah.
Are people having fun?
Oh, yeah.
Is Chad happy?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. We had questions about, well, what about all the creatures that did fossilize? Could you have had giant boneless aliens moving around here and stuff and we wouldn't know? And
Yes.
Sure, okay,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what is that, the purple teacup around Jupiter or whatever it
Oh,
is?
Russell's teapot, yeah.
Russell's teapot.
Yeah.
It's like, sure.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good that you brought that up. I totally forgot about that analogy. But yeah. Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Here, I should bring that up to the chat. Russell's teapot was this thought experiment. Bertrand Russell came up with that. And it was like, you know, he kind of, if I remember this correctly, I might butcher this a little bit, but he's like, well, I swear to you that there is a teapot that is out in the solar system and it's circling, you know, orbiting somewhere between Jupiter and Mars. I promise you it's out there, but you can't observe it. It's too small. You know, you can't pick it up on any telescopes or anything like that. They're not powerful enough, but trust me, bro, it's out there. Trust me, bro. He's trying to make a point about, like, sure, you can say anything that you want, but it wouldn't be a scientific idea because, like, you can't test it. If you set up a scenario where, like, oh, well, you know, sure, there's this thing, but you can't look for it, though. You wouldn't find it, you know. But trust me, like, it's not exactly science. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a Wikipedia. There we go, Russell's teapot. Thank you, Claire. Yeah. Might be a T-Rex out there with it. There you go, Lowlands Lounger. Yeah, hiding in the teapot. Yeah. And no, ran out of time. I've not actually spent any time in Havre yet. I stopped for gas, and I stopped to get veggie burgers at the Walmart. But I've not spent any time in the town yet. We did have a town day a few days ago, and I chose to come here and dig at the site, because I didn't need to go to town. I don't need to take a shower yet. Not that dirty yet. Don't need to do laundry. I've got plenty of clean clothes. So one of these days, hopefully, I can take the underground tour of Havre. That sounds pretty neat. I haven't even been to the fossil museum yet. The Clack Museum has got some cool fossils from this area, and I haven't even seen them yet. So probably won't happen this year, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. And how are the veggie burgers at Walmart these days? They're the same. I don't know, Geek Store. Veggie burgers, they're cheap. They get the job done. You know? They've got calories. It tastes pretty okay. I like them. I won't praise them to sponsor me. Yeah. Anywho, yeah. That's probably what's for dinner tonight. Me and Charlie are the only vegetarians in camp right now, which means that there's not a lot of thought put into what the vegetarians will eat. There's only 2 of us. So most nights it's veggie burgers. You know what? I'm fine with that. I didn't come out here to eat gourmet meals, creatively, thoughtfully prepared. I came out here to dig dinosaurs and to live stream it. So I don't know. I can deal with eating veggie burgers every night for several weeks. It doesn't bother me. Yeah. Let me catch up to chat. Folks at the museums in Montana were absolutely amazing. Awesome. I'm really glad you had a good time out here. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in Montana. I lived in Bozeman for 8 years, and I've traveled all over this state, been to a bunch of different museums, and usually had a pretty good time. I've dug at a lot of fossil sites in Montana, and good fossils here, and some other cool stuff too. So I'm glad to be here. This is my first time live streaming from field sites in Montana. I moved back to California in 2018. Done a lot of field work in Wyoming and in Utah since then, and a handful of other places. It's my first time since I left in 2018 really doing field work in Montana, and it's good to be back for a while, you know? Yeah. And they live as quote, yeah, came here to dig dinosaurs and eat veggie burgers, yeah, and I'm all out of veggie burgers, Lenina. Yeah. Good stuff. Let me get some more water. We'll be wrapping this up pretty soon here. So if you've got any other questions, you know, don't keep them to yourself. Oof. Ask away. Geeks Tour says, is there anywhere in the U.S. you would like to dig that you haven't yet? So many places, yeah. I'd love to be able to go dig in Nevada, and I might have a chance to do that later this year. We'll see. Dig up some ichthyosaurs up in the mountains there. Love to go dig up in Alberta in Canada. I've got some invitations to go do that. We'll see if it works out for next year. I'd love to do some excavations in Florida. They've got cool Pleistocene critters there. I'd love to do some excavations in the San Francisco Bay Area, but you know, those opportunities are few and far between. I might be working in the Irvingtonian of Fremont, California at some point later on this year. We'll see if the opportunity presents itself. I'm working with a group out there trying to establish a new museum at the type locality of the Irvingtonian land mammal age, with the Children's Natural History Museum of Fremont. Where else do I want to dig? Shoot, all over the place. It'd be cool to go out to Dinosaur Park in Maryland. I'd love to go to New Mexico or Arizona and dig fossils there. Texas has got some really cool spots that I've got invitations to, but there's only so many weeks out of the year, and yeah. And B. Moore is his first time watching. I love this so much. No anywhere near Chicago for fossil heads. Hold that thought. We'll ask Steve, because he's a paleontologist from Chicago. You're not going to find many dinosaurs near Chicago, but the Burpee Museum in Rockford, Illinois, they do field expeditions to Montana and to Utah. So check out the Burpee Museum. But you do get, Maison Creek is in Illinois. Really neat, what is it? Pennsylvanian age stuff, I think? Steve, you got a question that's right up your alley.
Maison Creek?
No, any cool fossil localities near Chicago, which is your old stomping grounds, right?
Yeah, so I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
Nice.
And you want a classic locality, one of the classic Conservat Lagerstatten.
Yeah,
I'm sure you talk about sometimes. So this is one of these sites that just has incredible soft tissue preservation. That's the Maison Creek Formation, which is part of the Francis Creek Shale. A lot of people will correct it. That's the unit we're in. God, if you're in the south suburbs, you have maybe 20-some miles south to drive.
That's it?
And you can collect in the state park. That's Masonia Braidwood State Fish and Wildlife Area. There's a collecting season, much like a hunting season. I think it starts in March and ends in October, something like that. And I mean, the two big rules are you just can't dig holes
Okay.
Can't dig, you can't go digging.
Yeah.
And they ask that you take an information sheet and report what you find to the state. There's
cool.
a place in the park where you can fill out that form and place it. The first time you go, you're not going to find anything.
Yeah, fair.
But after the second, the third, once you figure out how collecting works there, every time you're going to be coming back with concretions.
Neat.
And then, it's I used this term the other day. Delayed gratification is a thing because you're just bringing home concretions. You have to soak them for like a week in water and then put them in the freezer and do freeze-thaw cycles. It can be 2 cycles, it can be 30 cycles before things split, and you see, that's nothing. That's nothing, and 90% of it is nothing. And then you might find some cool stuff.
Awesome. Yeah.
I grew up going there hundreds of times.
What's the location called again, if anybody didn't catch it?
The Masonia Braidwood State Fish and Wildlife Area.
Gotcha.
And you should probably go on the website just to check when fossil collecting season is open. There are signs in the park, fossils here, and you turn and there will be a little pond, and you'll see a bunch of all the vegetation is growing on old spoil heaps. So there are heaps of dirt, sort of like crops, just one next to the other. Now it's trees. In the 70s, there were no plants. That's after they closed the mines. It was just dirt. That's why so much was coming out back then, because people could just go, dig in the dirt heaps.
Yeah.
Eventually, the state took it over. Are still in there. They're just bound by the plant roots, and you just have to wait till they pop up to the surface.
Thanks for insight. We'll definitely. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love when we can answer a question like that and kind of make somebody's day. And that makes my day. Holy cow. Yeah, good stuff. Ace of Spades wants to know, what's the best fossil you have found? The best fossil I've ever found still hasn't been published yet. It was back in 2012. I was out with Denver Fowler, and we were prospecting. It was many miles east of here in northern Montana, just a few miles south of the Canadian border. Way northern Montana. I found a new species of horned dinosaur, what we call a chasmosaur. So it's a member of the Chasmosaurinae, kind of ceratopsid. So horned dinosaur, a lot like Triceratops, but older, much older. And he named the site Danny Ceratops, because I couldn't think of a name fast enough. I found it, and he's like, oh, Danny Ceratops. Not the name of the dinosaur, that's the name of the site. The dinosaur doesn't have a name yet. He's working on hopefully getting it published in the next few years. So that's pretty exciting. Brand new species of horned dinosaur I found in 2012. One of my proudest achievements. Yeah. And do you have a favorite dinosaur fossil? It's that one, Ace of Spades. That one's my favorite. I've got some other favorites too. The original claw, like the beautiful hand claw of Trurarchunkus, one of the dinosaurs that I'm an author on that paper. Jack Wilson found that in 2015. I still remember that day. That was pretty stellar. Other favorite fossils. There's a dinosaur, another new species of horned dinosaur. I didn't find this one, but I helped excavate it for the past 2 years, and we finally got a good part of it out of the ground, the skull, just a few weeks ago in Wyoming. And we thought it was a duckbill dinosaur. Turns out it's not. It's a horned dinosaur. Triceratops. But we were working on that just. And I had that live on camera a bunch of times. Couldn't really show the skull. That's kind of top secret right now. It's going to be really important. You'll have to wait a few years until we get it published. But we're very excited about that. That's one of my favorite fossils, too. Yeah. When that jacket got flipped over and I got to see the underside and see the horn and the frill, I could hardly breathe. And I don't mean that in like a really dramatic way. I mean, I was so surprised looking at it that I kind of like started to choke a little bit and I couldn't stop coughing. It was almost a little embarrassing. It was kind of obnoxious too. But like, yeah, just got a frog in my throat and couldn't stop coughing. It was kind of a magical moment. Also, it's not fun just not being able to stop coughing. But those are the reactions you have sometimes. Yeah. Anywho, catch up to the chat. There's so much dust on the phone screen. There we go. And Lily to you says, why does it take so long to get papers published? No disrespect received. No, it's a good question. We do things carefully. Good science takes time, as I think Charlie's Dragon said. These fossils that we're excavating here, this might take several years to excavate. And after that, they have to go back to the museum. They have to get opened up and cleaned in the laboratory. So all of the surrounding rock gets chipped away. Certain chemical consolidants are put on the bones and the eggs and stuff to keep them from falling apart. That can take months or years. And then it becomes part of like a pipeline where, you know, there are other fossils that were discovered earlier that might get published first. These might have to wait a few years before they get studied and published on. You know, you might write a scientific paper that's dozens of pages long. You have to illustrate and photograph the bones. And then even just after you get the paper written, you have to get it published. And so you send it off to a scientific journal, and it has to go through peer review. And it's a whole process there where other scientists check your work. Suggestions, you email back and forth. That can take months or years. A lot that goes into it. So every time that you see, like, oh, a new kind of dinosaur was discovered, if you see that on the news, know that it was probably years ago that that thing was excavated, maybe decades ago. That's just how it goes, you know? Maybe things would move a bit more quickly if we had more people and more money, but we definitely have a shortage of both in this field. Yeah. It's nuts because dinosaurs make so much money for so many other people. You think about all the dinosaur toys and movies and video games and merchandise and stuff, and for nearly every case there, we don't see a single dime of that, you know? The people actually doing the work, digging these animals up, studying them, publishing on them, we don't profit from that. Everybody else gets to profit off of it, but we don't. It's something I'd like to kind of change about this science, like find ways to make sure that like some of that money goes toward funding the future of our science, because right now it doesn't. So, but anyway, it's a difficult problem to solve. But I hope that answers your question. It takes a long time to publish. Yeah. Jolene, there you go, Fall Machine, yeah. Oh, Jolene, please don't take my grant. Please don't take it just because you can. Yeah. I'm always saying that, you know? Yeah. And Landon History Buff says, soldiers win the battles, generals usually get the credit for them. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and if the soldiers don't win the battles, maybe the generals get blamed, but the soldiers are dead, so they get the raw deal either way. So, yeah. And Mopar says, if a person finds a new dinosaur species, can that person suggest a name for the species? I mean, you could suggest whatever you want, but the person who names a new dinosaur is generally the person who is lead author on the paper. Or maybe you collaborate as a team and you come up with a good name. But, yeah. Oh, there's a deer down there. Oh, cool. Several deer going into the river. I don't know if you could see them with the camera. Probably not. But they're just starting to make their way down to the water. Good for them. Staying cool. Yeah. I don't know if you can see them, chat. But yeah, naming a new species of any kind of organism is up to the authors of the paper. And so if the person who found it is an author on the paper, then yeah, then they might have some input there. Maybe they can even pick the name or whatever. But I don't know, like for the dinosaur that I found back in 2012 at the Daniceratops site, that's the name of the site, but we don't know what the name of the dinosaur is going to be yet. And the lead author on the paper is generally the person, you know, she or he will come up with a name, and there might be some discussion among the different authors, but yeah. So I don't know what that name is going to be, and I'm sure Denver will pick something good. He's lead author on that whole project. He's leading the charge there, so yeah. There are some rules around it. You can never name an animal after yourself, whether it's a dinosaur or a deer or like any kind of animal. There's rules according to the ICZN, the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, the organization that dictates what you can or can't name, and like all the rules around priority and synonymy and stuff like that. It's verboten to name something after yourself. Can't do it. Let me know. There we are. Okay, good. Sorry about that, everybody. My camera battery died, and so I've got this plugged directly into the solar battery at the moment. But this is just in time for us to sign off because we're leaving the site anyway. We're packing things up. So yeah, let me just say thank you everybody for being here today. I appreciate all your questions, your enthusiasm, your curiosity, and your support. Again, if anybody wants to get Badlands Dinosaur Museum merch, check out the online gift shop. Get some really cool stuff. I'm looking forward to getting the Lambeosaurus t-shirt myself. It's a good way to support the museum and support our fieldwork out here. You could also donate to the Badlands Dinosaur Museum on their website if you're feeling like it. But it's been a fun stream. Got to see some really cool stuff today. Keep finding more eggs and more bones, and again, it's a privilege to be able to do this kind of outreach, and I appreciate you being here. I know the internet is a big place. You could be just about anywhere right now, but you've been hanging out with us, talking about fossil science, the history of life on Earth, watching us dig up dinosaurs. It's an honor to be able to share that with you. So I'm grateful. Let's see who else is live on Twitch right now, who might be doing some science. Who might we be able to raid into at the moment? I wonder if PaleoStream is on. PaleoStream is on, and so is... Oh, Draw Curiosity. Although she's doing a... Let's see. Well, let's read in. Let's see. Well, no, let's raid into Draw Curiosity. A fellow scientist here on Twitch, Dr. Ines, works on like the flight biomechanics of insects, which is really cool stuff. Something I know next to nothing about. But I think you'll have a good time there, and she is pushing for partner on Twitch right now, and she'd appreciate the viewership. So let's go show her some love. Tell her Danny says hi, because I'm going to have to go right after this. But thank you everybody for being here. Like I said, thank you for your viewership, your curiosity, your financial support. Thank you to the moderators for keeping this ship afloat, especially when weird things like this happen and the camera stops working. I hope to see you all tomorrow for some more live field paleontology. Till then, you all take care of yourselves, and let's go see what Draw Curiosity is up to. Take care. Bye-bye.